what they're about to watch, you know, and it's a lot of people. They're all thinking of this. Alright, so I only got about 6 minutes or so maybe to finish up this last thought, because the one video was, you know, 13 minutes, I don't know, something like that. And then the next one was whatever the fuck it was. And 23 minutes minus 15 I'm allowed. It's like 8 minutes left, so sorry, that's like 8 minutes total, which means I got 6 minutes I get to use. I got the 15 or anyways. So the last thought I just want to say is, if you guys haven't watched the Epiphany lecture video about Beyonce at Super Bowl 13, whatever it is, the Superdome in New Orleans, and if you haven't watched the fuck, it's dark, man, video about there it goes again, the 2012 ceremony that I have a link on one of the videos recently I made and in my playlist on YouTube, do so. Not to maybe make you scared there, but just that anytime a large group of people get together to watch the same thing, where all their mind is concentrated on the same thing, basically, a thought form is created. Because all their thoughts are on the same fucking thing, what they're about to watch, you know, and it's a lot of people. They're all thinking of the same thing, they're all in the same place. So that thought, all their thoughts dwelling on one specific idea creates a thought form, so to speak. And then what happens is there is a visual symbolism, pictures, basically a show going on that shows them, that coerces, that manipulates, that, you know, persuades that thought to be what they want. So whenever she did the deity at Super Bowl, you know, Sasha, well, not Sasha Fierce, that's her alternate ego, but she was Madam something, I forget what Beyonce was doing at Super Bowl. But what I'm saying is, in 2012, they did an open ceremony, and there was like this virus and a bunch of kids getting sick in a hospital, and then a bunch of airborne demons, virus things spinning around in the air, and this large version of Voldemort from the Harry Potter things, this massive giant egregore, and then at the end there's this massive giant in the bed. And I'm not saying they're trying to make giants happen or whatever, but what I'm saying is they've created, potentially anyways, maybe in the minds of the people that were there in attendance, in the minds of people watching it, because not only are you getting all the minds in the one place, everybody watching that opening ceremony, present, past or future, is also getting their mind involved in this egregore. So in the thought form point, and that's why I said if you're not a magician or practicing magic and you're watching my stuff, then maybe don't watch that video, because I don't want you to add to the problem. But you know, 8 years later, we've got the coronavirus, and like I said, I wouldn't really even put this together with the coronavirus if it wasn't for the projection over top of the stadium. Now maybe that was added in by the Christian guy who made the video, I don't know, I don't think so. It looks like that was part of their thing, a virus, and it looks just like the actual image of what the virus of coronavirus looks like. It could be just viruses in general, I don't know, and maybe it is all coincidence, even though I don't believe in that. But anyways, so that's the last thing I wanted to say. Was the reason I'm going over all this thought form stuff is because I'm tired of giving coronavirus any more of my energy, and I don't want to focus on it anymore. But I want it to be crystal clear to everyone that the thought form of coronavirus is more dangerous than the actual virus. If you're taking care of your immune system and you're not in fear and shutting down your own immune system by being in fear and sending the blood to your hands and feet and putting yourself in fight or flight, then you have nothing to worry about if you're not doing any of that. If you're okay and you're chill and you're not going out there putting a mask and gloves on when you go out and telling your subconscious mind there is something to worry about and that you are weak and vulnerable to this, well, then you have something to worry about. Now, if you're the type of person that has one of these germ issues like Howie Mandel or whatever, and you want to wear the masks and the gloves for that reason, well, then that's fine, because you've already programmed in your body that you have this issue with germs and so on and so forth. So, you know, you should be okay. But if you're the type of person that never worried about it before and now you're really worried about it, well, then there's a little bit difference. But as long as you don't put your emotion into your thought and you dwell on thoughts of you getting it, then you really have nothing to worry about. But the thought form, just take up looking up thought forms, the books. I'll put on some books at some point, PDFs that I find that have to do with servitors and thought forms, and this way you guys can learn all about it along with me, and you will be at the level of the person who creates these things, so you're never no longer at the level of the person who gets manipulated by these things. Who's, you know, your cause and effect. You're being, someone causes you to get ill, and then effectively you die. You don't want that. So let's start learning about thought forms so you can realize what you are, what they are, what everything is. Okay? All right. Have a good one. All right. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? So I think I played out the whole thought form thing a little much. Once again, I don't urge, but just to maybe understand what I'm trying to talk about, and, about what's going on with thought forms and all that. Check out that Olympic Games thing. Very, very enlightening experience. To watch that and see and come up with your own conclusions. Let me know what you think. Do I think these mass programming things can have an effect on people? Absolutely. Do I think if you are practicing magic and you create thought forms and shit like that, are you inoculated from it and are you able to not be affected by it? Absolutely. Because if you practice magic the correct way, if you take on, I can't really see my face, sorry about that. I can't take it out of the black and white mode for some stupid reason on this one. It's a different camera. Well, I mean I can, but it's, anyways. I have a few minutes here to record, so I'm recording. This is what I mean by when I said I want to get awareness out. I'm not trying to force my beliefs on anybody, and I'm not trying to tell everybody they should start doing ceremonial magic or witchcraft. But what I'm trying to say is, if you are in a spiritual movement or trying to do some law of attraction, if you're in New Age, maybe even if you're in a wake up, whatever it is that you might be practicing, some kind of mythology. Maybe you're just an atheist who's trying to figure out what's going on. Maybe you're just stuck and you realize you're at the beginning stages and you realize that your programming is not, it's faulty, it's not working. Well, I want to add the most important things that were to me anyways, that really what started the ability to be able to realize that I am actually creating my reality. Because the first time when I wrote down when I was doing New Age and law of attraction was, well, what you think about you bring about. Therefore, if you're thinking about you want to stop working and you want money and you want a house and a car, then all you have to do is think about it, and you can write it down and leave it in your pocket, like the Dale Earl Nightingale's information. Great video. I did it on my podcast a bunch of times. I'll put the link down below. Something that was created a long time ago. It's on a record or a tape, and he's talking about the strangest secret. And the strangest secret is how to use your mind, how to get something in your mind. He tells you to write down what you want to manifest, put it in your pocket, take it out, look at it definitely before bed and when you wake up. But I look at it throughout the day, all the time, Anyways, so that's what I was doing. But it wasn't until I started studying ceremonial magic and started diving into different versions of the craft of witchcraft that I started realizing the things that are the most important to be able to, and not to be able to manifest, and how to stop manifestations happening to you, such as something, a collective, a group would happen. If the entire collective right now is taking on the newest app out there, which is coronavirus can kill you. That's not an app you want to take. And when I say app, I'm just referring to one of my last videos when I said your body is the computer or the cell phone, whatever you want to think about, with some piece of some electronic that is able to have an application on it, and have applications running on it, basically. And what I said in, I think it was 2 videos ago, what I said in 2 videos ago, maybe 3, was that Corey LeBlanc is the one app that's on here. And that app has slowly been changing its settings and fine-tuning its settings, let's say, since I've been, 0 years old to probably 3 years ago when I was 30 or 29, whenever this whole thing started. And I got to a point where I realized, well, all the things that were put in me for programming weren't accurate, weren't going to serve me, weren't what I wanted, period, inside of my body. So this is when I started learning about witchcraft, ceremonial magic. Well, first it was law of attraction shit.
I was trying to attract things to me, but I still had all that programming in me. I still had all those settings in me. So it's kind of like when you're trying to do, like I said before, trying to use Windows software on a Mac, it's not going to work. Or if you have, I forget the name of the setting, but if you're trying to download something from an untrusted source, you need to go into your settings and take that off that you can receive stuff. Well, you're trying to do law of attraction, you're trying to manifest using magic or witchcraft, yet you have Christian programming in there. Would be like that setting saying you're not allowed to import or have this programming because we don't trust it. You know, something is stopping you. The movie Inception, that rich guy where Leonardo DiCaprio has to get in that guy's head. Well, that guy was protected against people like him. His father, who was rich as fuck, had the knowledge and the wisdom and intelligence to know that his son might be attacked to get to him. So he programmed his son to have subconscious programming to protect him from people going into his dreams and fucking doing dream work and affecting his company. But anyways, it's kind of like that. That's what your programming is from 0 to whatever age you are now. And you're trying to break that down. So what I'm trying to say is the things that I realize have the most effect when it comes to manifesting in your spiritual goals, okay? These are the things I'm trying to add to, I guess, New Age and Law of Attraction. I'm trying to make just one of those other voices saying, hey, this is how I did it. And I'm just trying to emphasize the things that are most important, like reject, banish, deny. So that's important for manifestation. Now, if we're doing shadow work, since like more than half my face is in the shadow right now, good side, bad side, right? And as you can see, I got more negative than positive, and that's how it is in my birth chart. So, but point is, shadow work is one of those things that is good for your spiritual goals. Now, you want to become more spiritually enlightened, you want to become more balanced, you want to become more neutral, which is super important with manifestation. All these things are connected. But if you need to manifest right now for whatever reason, okay, and you're not willing to wait until you're from a more grounded and a better place, well, then you need to start at least doing reject, banish, deny with every single thing. Every thought you get, every idea you get, everything that comes into your mind, okay, you need to be aware of, which is why meditation helps and why meditation is crucial to manifestation. Because if you are not meditating, if you're not slowing down your mind, if you're not conscious of all the thoughts going on in the background, and you know, I think I'm pretty good at it because I reject, banish, deny, and accept all day long, within my head or out loud when I can when there's nobody around. And even though I don't get all my thoughts, some of them slip through. And that's why I said I have a specific way of manifesting. It's already been programmed that I can only manifest within a magical circle in front of my altar. Whether that's actually in the physical in front of my altar or in my head visualizing me at my altar. But this way, anytime I try to manifest by accident, or let's say someone was to, you can do is you're going to get money, except you're going to get that rage often throughout the day whenever you think about it. You know, you do a ritual for it, you write down that you're going to have that, put it in your pocket, you look at it when you're sleepy, you're about to go to sleep, maybe meditate and you put it in your head, maybe you focus on it and get it in when you're in a trance. But every time you think about it throughout the day, by accident, because it just comes to your head, it just pops in, you know, you need to add the same emotion you're trying to bring onto it. So if you're trying to banish it away, you might want to use hate when you're thinking about it. Like, I hate that I'm addicted to fucking opiates, and you're like in fear of being that. So it doesn't matter if you're fearful of always using. If you use the fear emotion to banish, it works faster than using the love emotion. Get that down. And this is probably the best way to use your fear. And that side of the emotional spectrum is when you're trying to banish these things out of your life. So the same reason you got those, you were fearful. You were fearful of crowds. You were sad about your life. You were trying to repress emotion from something traumatic or a parent doing something bad to you as a child. So you started using drugs out of fear to not feel that, right? That's how you manifested this addiction. And over time, continually using it, now it's embedded in your subconscious so bad that you can't stop if you wanted to. Well, if you want to stop that habit, you need to create a representation of it, whether that be sigil form, whether you're just doing a ritual for the altar, whether you're picturing yourself no longer using, then you can use gratitude. But when you're trying to actively banish it, like during ritual, you know, you want to, whenever you're thinking about it randomly throughout the day, you can use the fear emotion to also banish it away, the same emotion you brought it in with. All I'm trying to say here is whatever emotion you use during the ritual would be the same emotion you have to use throughout the day because you don't want opposing thoughts. I already talked about this, I don't know, 10 videos ago, something like that. But anyways, that's why this is important. And I think that's one of those things that speed up your manifestation when you're trying to bring stuff to you or when you're trying to banish it away. Obviously using the right side time of the month with the moon, waxing, bringing stuff to you, waning, banishing stuff away is super important. Aligning with the planets, the sun and nature is super important. It speeds up your manifestation because when you really think about it, who created your subconscious mind? Well, your parents, God, whoever, nature. We are both of this world and of the stars. We are a combination of both. We're a combination of the elements present here, and we're a combination of, carbon, fucking 666, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. That's what that really means. Point is, we are both of these realms. So part of it's from, the divine, and part of it's from the earthly realm. So if you want to manifest, you need to, get in touch with nature. So I forget what the fucking first thing I was trying to talk about. Oh yeah, I'm trying to emphasize the importance of accept or banish, reject, deny. Okay, every thought that comes into your mind, you need to treat it like an offer. Not just assume that's how things are going to play out. Not just assume these are your thoughts. They could be coming from other places, other things. Doesn't matter. The crossroads, train tracks, even like Four Corners. These are these places that are almost like in between places. How do they? Anyways, they're. When I first started in witchcraft, I didn't understand why. Like, if you're doing an offering to Hecate, it's best to go to the crossroads and do it. And this is a place of like another realm, almost, so to speak, because the crossroads is a physical place. Someone put that structure there, and you can stand there at the crossroads. But normally, people don't really stay on the crossroads. But I think what it has to do with is the fact of how many minds are going up and down those crossroads on the train tracks all the time, over and over and over again. But their minds are in all these different places. You know what I mean? Whereas when everybody goes to a football stadium, they're going there to watch the game, all their minds are linked up because they're all collectively either for the one team or for the other team, but they're all there because they want to see a good game. After all, they want to go there and have a fun experience, okay? Is the main point. So all their thoughts are on the same spot. Whereas in a train, you got all these minds on this train. They're in this dwelling place, yet this dwelling place is moving. This thing they're in. They're constant whenever they're inside the train, going from, my town to fucking wherever, BC or something like that. Their mind is in this spot where the shit's around, they got the seat they're sitting in, people in front of them, that's always constant, yet they're still moving through the realm, through the physical world. So that's why it's this in-between places area where it's just good for spiritual activity and things to give offerings to spirits and shit like that. And I think that kind of plays in to, it gives you insight onto why and how and where thoughts come from. So you go somewhere like that, these things, you can catch on random thoughts. You go there. Anyways, anywhere you go where you go to a football stadium, you're most likely going to fucking think about football, your team, whatever, the time you got a fucking mustard stain on your shirt. Whereas when you're at home, you might not think about that shirt. You might not think about your team. You might be thinking about all your responsibility. When you go to work, you might be thinking about your home issues or your paycheck. All these spots have specific thoughts and vibrations that when you go there, you tune into these thoughts and they come to you. But they're not necessarily yours. They're not just like floating around in your head and they just come out randomly, willy-nilly. It has something to do with the frequency, your vibration, your emotional state puts off your, let's say, vibration, okay? There's a certain amount of hertz that can be measured. And when you're in that state, you can take the same thoughts that had that emotion put into it. Now, someone else's love emotion can be someone else's, fun emotion. I'm having trouble putting this into words right now. I guess I'm kind of rushing, and maybe that's why, because I don't know how long I've been going either. But I guess the point I'm trying to say is your thoughts don't come from you. They're not yours. You are, your brain, your mind, whatever, is the mechanism that takes them in, interprets them. And then from there, you either choose to accept it, bring it in your body, and then it plays out. Or you reject it so it doesn't play out through your body. And that's the importance of reject, banish, deny. So if you're trying to actively manifest money, yet every time you get a scratch ticket, you say, oh, I never win on those fucking things. I'm never going to win this. Or, I'm so unlucky, and you say shit like that, well then you're going against what you put off in the universe that, I manifested this money, you know, present tense. Yet in the present, you're saying you never get money. So you're canceling it out, you know, you're killing it. And that's why this is important. And these thoughts aren't yours. They come to you. Especially when you're trying to manifest stuff, you get tested even more. It seems like everybody's conspiring against you. And it's not. It's your mind testing you to see if you're at the right neutrality, let's say. Okay? I said this before as well. Your conscious mind is here to protect your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the female mind. It's vastly more powerful. It's more important. It's everything. It keeps us going. But it is gullible. Not necessarily gullible. I don't think that's right, but it's a way of thinking of it. But it's just that it doesn't think everybody's going to try to deceive it. It doesn't believe that everybody's going to deceive it. So whatever it's told, it believes. Therefore, to protect the conscious mind, the male, the hunter, has to protect the female, the mother. Your conscious mind has to protect your subconscious mind. This is why you turn off the TV and you stop taking in thoughts that aren't going to help you, that are, you know, you block those away, and you only accept the thoughts of what you want. And this way you start steering, okay? Because whatever you put in the subconscious mind plays out. Now you don't get to pick how it plays out. You don't get to say, okay, I'm going to get this money on this day because of this. I mean, you can try, and it'll eventually play out, but it'll take longer for all those things to line up, because everybody's world is happening at the same time simultaneously. So for you just to have something happen right away, other people's realities depend on it, and everybody is trying to go towards the common good, let's say, or at least whatever they're accepting in their reality has to play out, same as yours. And if you're accepting something and someone else is accepting something and those two things don't match, well, whoever puts the most emotion, most force into it, who does it more correctly, is going to get theirs to play out first. And it's just going to backfire. The person who keeps saying they want to manifest money but keeps saying, I'm never going to manifest money, this shit probably doesn't work, and they keep accepting it, well, then the other guy's going to win. Or that person believes in their skills, but yet the people around them think he's crazy and don't know it's never going to work, and those thoughts are having an effect on him. And that person likewise is going to get those thoughts more. Something I've noticed from when I didn't tell my wife what I was doing to when I told my wife I was into this stuff, the thoughts of things not happening, things backfiring, this being bullshit, amplified like fivefold. Okay, I get way more thoughts now that my shit is bullshit than ever. Well, not anymore. That's stopped actually now that she's seen manifestation and things have worked out for her. But point is, I'm tapping into the same thoughts that she was receiving. Anyways, this is a whole lot to say. I'm gonna have to do the next video to fucking kind of clarify this. But anyways, yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll have another one up soon.
Anybody an apology. I don't have no regrets in my biology. Read all the shit for the stars. I look like astronomy. No one as hot as me. Copy me commonly. Wanna be jealous, so shockingly comedy. Carry the weight of my songs all on top of me. I will not break. I'm not made out of pottery. Bury your bodies on acres of property. Place them at angles like sacred geometry. Down with the modesty. Everything I drop is quality. Promise, like honestly, follow me. I ain't gonna stop with the hits. Come rock with a kid. I'm locked like Pac with a pin. I'm a god with a pin. No cops in the crib. Got guap cause I'm awesome with this. Underrated, overpaid, they hate it. Complicated calculations. Made it right to paper. Razor sharp like Blade and Freddy versus Jason. Angels in my heart of Satan in the basement. Brains and hands and faces. What has made me famous? Great imagination. Fatal combination. Labels on the daily. I've been on vacation. Basic translation is I don't give a fuck. Sorry, I got a point of view. It's like a pistol you don't want to point at you. Y'all are annoying, dude. Y'all are like rats racing in a gas chamber. Y'all can't avoid a fuse. Y'all in a cage lock, my deranged thoughts. I like Ray Charles, waving chainsaws. Cause your brain chopped into 8 parts to go face off. Hit the graveyard on my days off. I just cock aim and I spray shots till your legs lock and your veins popping.
Here it comes.
Work, y'all get laid off. My girl shot every single fucking video. My heart wrote every single fucking song. Y'all are my children, my kids will be indigo. Obviously, I'm a fucking god. Follow me off with the cock, cocking the goblet, shotgun and coffee. Slathering lots and I'm offering coffins to anyone. Time I can sloppy.
How awesome was that? Yelling at my children, my kids will be indigos. Obviously, I'm a fucking god, and I know what that means. You know what that means? Well, I don't know. Anyways, music, every song is different for every person, and everybody can relate to music differently. But for me, I love that line because I'm learning how to become like the creator that created me, in his likeness. I am coming back to him by developing and evolving my consciousness and working on transformation. And yeah, my kids are totally fucking indigos and star seeds and fucking whatever, because technically I was one. And now my transformation goes from being the star seed and the indigo and all that shit, you know, the empathic light worker, to I'm no longer those things. I'm the fucking god now, motherfuckers. So suck my godlike phallic. Oh shit. Why am I saying this shit? Hey, what's going on? So I did one video today, but it was 18 minutes long, so I pieced it up into two and I put it on the tube that you watch. Well, I watch. I love YouTube. Well, I don't love YouTube, but I love good information on YouTube, which you really gotta be careful with what's good and what's not good. I think, you know, I think there's you know, maybe 25% out of the whole 100, okay, is out of a certain topic. Let's say you're trying to learn about the brain, you're trying to learn about, you know, spirituality or this fucking, you know, awakened movements and all that. Now, the guys for truth and what's true and what's false kind of thing is different for every person, but I'd still say for a person at the time, whenever the truth is relevant, you know, because things are true and things, you know, are subjective, but at the same time, there's still some underlining truth to things there, okay? There's like something that is real behind something. Anyways, I'd say 25% of the information is accurate and useful, and then the other 75 is somewhere between just vague information and or not accurate at all, either on purpose or just, you know. Anyways, and out of that 25%, you're probably only going to hear, you know, probably 10% out of that 25% is actually from somebody who, you know, whether it doesn't matter what it is, building something to fucking, you know, whatever. 10% of it's actually going to be the person speaking about it is going to be the person who's actually done it, which means, you know, 50% out of that 25 is copycats that ended up copying the right people. Okay, so 10% is accurate information, and then there's 15% of people that realize that that's the accurate information, they get it right, and the other 75 are trying to find a version of that or intentionally trying to fucking go against it, is what I mean by that. So I love that shit on YouTube. I don't love the rest of it, but understand it's there for a reason. You know, the more people that are consciously watching YouTube instead of sitting in front of the TV and being programmed, if 75% of the shit on YouTube is still false shit, or, you know, fear-based media, because there's a whole lot of fear-based media on YouTube you can watch, and, you know, sometimes it's not as bad as the news, because the news can be pretty bad, but sometimes it's worse than the news. So you really got to be careful. And that takes me back to the whole importance of when you're manifesting. See, I said in the first video I put out today that I wanted to, my goal, I guess it'd be my newest goal. My first goal was to come out here and speak my truth. People like Fraser Xavier and, you know, Ralph Smart and many others, maybe Greg Braden, and, you know, there's so many that I can't mention them all, but all these guys that I looked up to and learned from. There's a lot of them that Birch teaches this shit too. I don't know if he says to start a channel or not, but, you know, he's one that inspired me by the way he does it. But come out here and speak your truth and let people find out about this stuff. Birch is into correcting magic, because people get witchcraft and magic procedure wrong, and since he's been in a lot of old crafts and he knows so many, he kind of sets the record straight, so that's why it's always one of my sources. See, before I started doing magic, I was watching magic, and like I said, I was going to start speaking on it. I even started making videos in my garage a long time ago, but I technically wasn't practicing anything. The only thing I had achieved at that point was simply, I wrote down the script and my manifestation happened. So I immediately wanted to start doing this, and it's probably because I felt a pull to this, but I wasn't ready yet. And, you know, I put some videos on, but none of them got any traction. You know, just a moment here. Sorry about that. Alright. I just sent a text there. Okay. sorry about that. Anyways, sorry about that. People were pretty close, and I still feel a little self-conscious when I see people getting too close to the car. And you know, most people nowadays will think you're talking into Bluetooth or whatever, but when they see the camera in front, they're gonna be like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Anyways, so this plays into the whole me wanting. One of my goals is now. Well, I was saying how I made videos in my garage, and they're about how to point out when someone is a fake guru, which, you know, and when I got no traction with that, thank God, too, because if I would have got any kind of attention with something pointing out negative fucking, you know, something unuseful like that, like how does that provide a service for anybody? It doesn't. You know, I know some people do get hits on, you know, like reaction videos or whatever, but if you're promoting an artist, then you know, maybe that's why they get some traction, but just straight up just dissing people. And even if I was right, I didn't get any traction with it. Thank God I didn't get any attention with it, so I stopped it right away. And then I eventually found the podcast Spreaker through Uncle Birch, and got some traction on there. And then they all went to YouTube, my videos, and you know, here and there I'd add a video. First one was me showing my manifestations, which is my house, my yard, my car. Anyways, but my goal is, because if people are starting off in this, even when you start, like, you can know you need to reprogram yourself. You can know that sitting in front of the TV is wrong. You can consciously know all these things, but all your routines are deep into your subconscious. 1 second. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, should I get the ant spray too?
I think we're good right now, but yeah, I mean, if it's not that expensive, then sure, yeah.
Well, it's $10.
Well, that's
So
up
should
to
I
you.
just wait and see?
We haven't had any issue, but you know, now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd wait.
Okay.
Are you done, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna be heading out there.
Okay. Did you see where I
Okay.
parked?
What's that?
Did you see where I parked?
No.
Okay. Anyways, all right. Text me.
I'll
when you're-
message. I'll
Okay.
call whenever if I can't find
All
you.
right.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
This is the thing I'm talking about. When you start doing stuff, you get all these little things that kind of stop you, delay you, fuck with you, and it's probably your own mind pushing back because you have subconscious programming telling you shouldn't be doing this, and or you pick up thoughts that tell you shouldn't do that, and maybe you accept them, so that when you go to do something. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. I ended up getting on Spreaker, and I got some traction there because, you know, I was providing a service, and the service was helping people find this information, being another source, saying it's real. You know, even if people don't listen to me, or if somebody important listens to me and they transfer my message to millions, then great, I'm happy with that. Or if I help somebody who doesn't like watching the guys that are, you know, more popular, thinking maybe they're frauds, then whatever, I don't really care. But somehow I provided a service, because then I started making enough money to cover the show. And you know, I can't say it took off because I got like only 20 subscribers on YouTube, 22, but you know, that's gonna grow. It's always growing. I got like 3 on Spreaker, but once again, I don't go by that. I go by the amount of downloads I get. And today is the 2nd or the 3rd. What is today? Today's the 2nd, so technically today is the last day of the year cycle. That is my Spreaker, my podcast. I started my podcast May 3rd last year. I mean, that might not be accurate. I think I may have started earlier than that. I might be going by the monetization. I'm not really positive, because I think it was more like April, to be honest, but you know, nonetheless, it was a big step for me when I did that. It's funny too, because when Beltane just happened, and I'm like, I didn't do anything for Beltane, Mayday, you know. But you know, it is what it is. So I'm gonna try to make a podcast tonight, but I'll probably do it tomorrow on the anniversary date, because today, you know, from people think from Saturday to Saturday is a week. Well, from Saturday to Saturday, depending on the hour and how anal you are, but from Saturday to Saturday is 8 days. It's not a week. But from Saturday to Friday is the 7 days, right? So from May 3rd, 2019 to May 2nd, 2020 is a year I've been on my podcast, and I've got, I want to say, over 10,000 downloads or just under 10,000 downloads. I can't remember which one. So, you know, if you divide that by, you know, 12 months, you know, it's not quite 100 a month of downloads, but, you know, to me, that's pretty good considering the starting, it was pretty slow. It took me a while to get some traction. So right now, because my months are more than that now, but at the beginning they were less than that. So, now I think I'm anywhere, because like I've had days where I've had 200 downloads. I've had a day where it was almost 300 downloads. I've had weeks with 400 or 500 downloads. Point is, I keep sticking with it, because who knows what could happen. Maybe I blow up, maybe I don't. It's not about that, but I see it happening, and it will eventually become that. It's just, I haven't ever visualized myself being popular on either Spreaker or YouTube. I've never visualized that once, because to me, it's not a necessity. And right now, the way things are going, I get just as much joy of doing what I'm doing now. If I was to try to do that and it work out, then, a lot of things could change, and it might suck the joy out of it, and I don't want that. Because, to be honest, right now, at this present time, this is one of the main things I like doing, and that's why I've been doing the videos more than the podcast lately, because it doesn't take as long. But when I make a podcast, depending, there's some of them I just strap together. They're not the greatest, but some of them, getting all the information right, if it took a little more time to get the structure right and audio right, and present it better and get some songs in there, it could be a really, really great show. But I put all my effort in collecting the information, and then putting it all together correctly, or trying to anyways, with everything else going on in my life. So, but anyways, way off topic. But yeah, so when I started sharing, I was sharing on something that wasn't creating value or helping anybody out in any way, shape, or form, and now I believe it does. But I was just being another voice saying that magic is real, and if you want to change your life, this is one of those ways that can do it. And I never claimed this is the only way to do it, and this is the only truth. I think in my first episode, I kept saying magic is real, and then after that episode, I said, I corrected my very second episode. First one's, they're all 15 minutes up to episode 8. I think it starts at 45 minutes. But I corrected it after that, and said that real, what I meant by real is that it works, and not necessarily it's real, because someone who doesn't believe it, it's not going to be real for them. But anyways, that was my main goal, was just to be another voice saying it's real, and to help others, find the shit and help spread the information that I learned from all the people I learned it from. So anyways, off of that now, because that's not what I want to talk about. Now my goal is now to add to the thought form, the spirituality, the movement, the group, whoever is in New Age and whoever is in trying to do law of attraction or witchcraft or magic, I want to make sure that I spread that to do these things, it's best to have this base amount of procedure, ritual, exercises, certain criteria you should possibly do, depending obviously on the person. And like I said, these things you can incorporate in your own way, as long as you do a version of this with, because using the correct words is something everybody needs to know. How the subconscious and the conscious works. Astrology can really open up your eyes, stuff like that, over and over and over again. Okay, so I'm going to try to finish off my thoughts that I was saying earlier. The point I was trying to get at when I was speaking about all that shit in my last video was simply to say that I want to add, I guess, almost like programming. Because when you do witchcraft and you do magic, and I've already stated this, but when you are a magician, when you are a witch, that comes along with the programming. Well, not necessarily that comes with the programming, but, like I said, as a child, I knew my grandmother was a witch from the stories that told us. So basically, on some level, that is programming in my mind that being a witch, having these powers, is possible, because someone in my family knows it. Everybody in my family knew it. It's in the same way as I said that if you can call on your ancestors for money problems, for relationship problems, but you can also call on Venus and stuff and use them as well. But Venus and the planets are more for self-work, because these are energies within your body, so they affect your body. But when you try to bring stuff into your into reality, well, you're using your body as well. So that you can still use it as well, but the reason you can use ancestors, just like you can use deities, using a specific deity that might be tied to Venus also works if it's not completely her as well. And the reason these things work, just like your ancestors, is, say I call on my, I was to call on my grandmother, Muriel LeBlanc. I'm calling on her energy. She lived at one time, and maybe I'm calling on her to help me, to guide me with my magic, to learn, to go through initiation, to become a witch, to know what she knew. Okay, well, I'm calling on the consciousness that used to be my grandmother. Is she somewhere elsewhere? Probably. Am I contacting her where she is right now at the present time? No, I'm contacting what was my grandmother when she was alive on this earth. Her consciousness, the things that she touched, where she went, her energies are still here. But anyways, the point of this is, though, within my mind and every family member, my cousins, my mom, which, you know, is related to her through law, like my father is her son, so my father has blood ties to her, but both their minds have my grandmother in there. They have memories that they can see in their mind. They might even have dreams from time to time. So there's a thought form of my grandmother still alive within everybody's head. Kind of like, I don't know if you watch it, I think it's the Book of Life and the Book of the Dead. There's two cartoons, and same concept. If everybody up there who dies, everybody who remembers you dies, well then they have to go to the deepest part of the underworld where the forgotten ones go. Whereas if you're remembered by your family, the people that exist, that live, if you remember, and these come from real traditions, by the way. They're not always exactly the way they portray it in movies, but a lot of the concepts are real, by the way. And I'm not going to get into all that, but that would be a pretty cool video to make too on some of these religions / spirituality / crafts, witchcrafts. But anyways, when everybody up in the land of the living doesn't have you in their memories anymore, they're not going and celebrating your death, you're passing on, then once you get forgotten, you go into the deepest part of hell, and then you basically whisk away, you just blow away in the wind like sand. Because if you're not in the physical anymore, and you're not in the mental, anybody's thoughts anymore, which is where things start. So you can still be alive as a thought, kind of like when someone dies on the table, their mind dies, but if their body dies, but if their mind is still alive, or maybe it's the people around them still hoping they can come back, and maybe if those people are powerful enough or wish enough, then who knows? That's something I don't think we could ever prove anyways. But the point is, it's kind of like that with your ancestors, is whether you want to call it a form, an entity, a deity, whatever, you can call on what was them, what is them, the thought form that exists in everybody's mind, even though it's in the past. Like, there's nothing stopping me from going in my imagination right now and having a conversation with my grandmother, okay? Knowing all the information I know about her now, okay? About her back then, I can go into the place where she used to live, the last place I went to where she lives, and I can have a conversation with her, me being today's Corey, and her being the last version of her that I saw before she passed away. And everybody's mind who knows my grandmother, that I'm also linked to, especially in a dream, would help create the picture of my grandmother, and I can get real life answers. Now, those answers coming from her actual entity, her spirit, her body, that thought form or servitor, whatever you want to call it, or is it coming from my own mind? It doesn't matter. The answers would be no less unreal, and I would still get the answers I need, and I have something real I can call on. I have an ancestor I can call on, and it would work within my mind, because if it's the criteria, because she was a witch, she had these powers, and she actually used them, so I could ask her questions and I would get the real answers, and it would be coming from my mind. And it doesn't really matter whether it's actually from her, then her now, or her spirit, or whatever, because the answers would be correct, because all our minds are linked. So my mind would get the download of the information from her mind, and then I'd get it. This is a way we can download and get information instantaneously. You could do this in a visualization in your living room once you practice and you get those connections worked out. Now, I'm going to be talking about something in a little bit that's a little more scarier that might be happening soon, but we'll cross that bridge when I cross that bridge. But that's how ancestor works, that's how deity works, that's how all this stuff. So when I was talking about taking on deities as in installing new apps, and we're like the computer, which I'm gonna stop talking like that because we are way more beautiful, wonderful, exquisite, fucking complex, and more powerful than a computer ever is. But it's a nice simile comparison slash metaphor. If you use the word is or such as or like, then it's not a metaphor, it's a simile or a comparison. But anyways, that's just some grammar for you, because I have a grimoire and I am good at spelling because I cast those motherfuckers. Anyways, you ever notice how the song, I don't know if you ever heard the song fucking Taylor Swift and the dude from Panic at the Disco, but in the middle of the song, hey kids, spelling is fun. Well, they blank that bitch out. They blank out the, all you hear is, well, actually they do the hey kids as well too, so it's not so obvious, so maybe you think it's just some cut. But when they first started airing it on the radio, they would say hey kids, and then the rest would be blanked out. It's like, why the fuck are they blanking out spelling is fun? You know what I mean? That's fucked up. Isn't it because of the whole words or spells and cursive with curses and shit like that? Who knows? But anyways, so calling on your ancestors is like calling on planet energies, calling on deities. What you're asking to happen is you're taking your subconscious mind and you're creating a symbolic link to speak to your subconscious mind. Once again, that's all it is. And you can look at it from the thought form perspective, like I like to use all the time, because it really helps me understand it all. But there's a form of thought in everybody's mind that is my grandmother, and that is still alive within everybody's mind. Just like I said, once we all die who remember my grandmother, and there's no one else here that remembers her or has a picture up of her or anything like that, is that when that person is truly gone? Who knows? I think they're gone when they're gone, and they move on to the next task, whether that's reincarnation, whether that's going up, whether that's helping, who knows? But what I truly think is, as long as you can have a symbolic representation to talk to your subconscious, then it's going to work, and you're going to get the information you need. And so, how did I get onto that shit? Oh yeah, okay. And this is how you this is also the same way you protect against thought forms that could be coming after you. The coronavirus as a thought form, just like any disease as a thought form, is a real thing people should know about and potentially be aware of. And it comes back to the reason why I want to add these very small but life-changing and helping and like magic hacks, basically, because people don't know about it, right? If you're just in the law of attraction, spiritual, and meditating, that's great, but you might not know the specific words to talk into existence, and you might eventually evolve and work anyways, because you've been watching the same thing over and over again. You watch people saying that they've been using the law of attraction to manifest, and if you think their version of the law of attraction is the same as your version, and you've been doing it for a few years now, well, then it'll work. But you want to speed up the process. Well, depolarization is probably one of the best things you can do added. Well, meditation is probably the single most. And then depolarization, then accept, banish, reject, deny. All that shit is uber important. Ritual magic, getting to know your mind, practicing visualization, creating your space holy, removing negativity and any harmful energies off of things. You know, all this stuff is helpful, but not... It's definitely, I can't say it's not necessary, because there's always ways of doing things. There's always a bunch of ways of doing things, but unless you know those ways, and if you just have vague information, well, then it's not going to help you much. So the reason why I'm breaking thought forms down so much is, like I said, I want people to be protected against coronavirus, and I think that's the best way, because I think there's something way more deep into coronavirus. I was looking into the neocortex because last time I was listening to Ralph Smart, he was talking about the Matrix, and he said, Neo, wake up, Neo, wake up, Neo, wake up, and I couldn't help. I kept getting the picture of a brain in my head, and the neocortex. I'm like, is this some kind of fucking metaphor for our neocortex and how our neo? This is before I couldn't remember exactly what part of the brain the neocortex was. I know now, but I couldn't remember, so I'm like, is this a play on that? Neo, wake up, Morpheus, you know, computer simulation, we're all in mind, blah, 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 blah. So it made me look down the path of the neocortex. The information I got was scary, and I was looking into David Icke stuff, and then he said something pretty bluntly that I was basically slowly coming to. So then I knew exactly what was going on. And just a side shift on David Icke for a second here. He got apparently banned from YouTube, woke up and locked out of all his accounts so they don't exist and whatever. But as far as I can tell, a lot of his information is still on there, and you can still see the very harsh information. So I always take both sides to every story, so I don't take any sides, basically, because I'm in the middle. David Icke is very good at polarizing people against reptilians. I don't always think that's good, because we have one part of our brain, the oldest part of our brain is called the reptilian mind. It's the brainstem, basically. The first part of the brain that's been with us forever. It's in charge of survival. Most people think the reptilian brain is the problem. It's the problem. It's what gets you into fight or flight. And technically it used to save you. And this was my understanding up until about 3 hours ago. But I went to various sources and 2 books to make sure what I'm going to tell you is accurate. But most people think the reptilian mind is bad, and like I said, likewise, spirituality. It's for us who don't believe in necessarily heaven and hell and the God of the Bible and Satan and Lucifer in that sense, which they're totally egregores and thought forms, by the way. You probably knew I was going to say that, but now it's reptilians versus other Pleiadians or the other aliens or Source or whatever the case, but they're the bad guys. Just like in our mind, they're the bad guys, okay? But they're not at least when it comes to our brain. Now, if there's an alien race out there that's done all the things that the internet says the reptilians have done, then it's arguably they are bad. But if they're the reason we're evolving to conquer them, then they're not that bad in my book. But the reptilian mind is in charge of everything in your body. It's in charge of all the healing, the not healing, the fucking the regulation of your temperature. You know what I mean? That's something that's on every being that has a brain, basically. Okay. Now, the neocortex is the newest part of the brain, which is something I find fascinating, and it ultimately controls most of our hearing, sight, touch, vision, or that's sight, and all that shit. Those 5 senses that people say are bad or not good or whatever the case may be. Let me stop this there.
Lately, everyone been talking crazy, feel like everybody's got some to say. They misinterpreted my good intentions and expected I was just gonna step away. If there's a heart to pump and there's a breath to take, then I won't bite my tongue as long as I'm awake. And they don't have the guts to make a dumb mistake. I'd rather crash a car than never touch the brakes. I built this fucking house. They're the kind of people that be dying for exposure. They're the kind of people that get mad, lose composure. They're the kind of people that are never going forward. They're just the ones that are looking for apologies. Hate real loud, but they follow me, screaming at the top of their lungs. I'm the scum of the earth in the same damn breath, trying to preach about equality. Back before I wrote this song on race, they all ignored that I had something great. They tried to edge me out, they didn't hear my bars. They tried to tell me that I wasn't built for fame. Fast forward to when I'm paid. I ain't spend $1 on the chain. I'll get my mama a house, I'll get my dad a car, I'll make my sister rich, she'll never work again. And this hater is so underwhelming. I'm conditioned for all the abuse. Seeing the reaction videos all blowing up, and you're welcome for all of the views. Blow up my Twitter, y'all just keep making me bigger. Y'all just keep showing you triggered. Y'all just keep missing the point, and I keep doing me. Y'all ain't nothing to even consider. Man, I built this house. I'm the kind of person making music with a purpose. You the kind of people that be hating on the surface. I'm the kind of you ain't used to kind of make you nervous. Yeah, back before I even wrote the record, I could see this coming like a fortune teller. Run a calm sea, don't make a skilled sailor, so I thank the heavens for the stormy weather. Okay, fast forward to when we're old and gray. I was looking back to when they posted hate, and it will hurt a bit, but it was worth it when your dream is getting hurt, no matter what they say. I try conveying that I love us all, and the way I did it left them so appalled. I used a broken arm to try and break their walls, no matter what they say, they know it took balls. I surveyed the land and I found a location, unloaded the lumber and pounded the stakes, and I blended the bones of the people who hated with blood and cement. Then I poured the foundation, I built the frame with all my guilt and shame, and then I chiseled my name and the date in the basement. I carved my initials and all of the boards and the beams that are needed for structural greatness. No record label, no distribution, no cosign, no publicist, no manager, no teammates, no money to make up my budget with, no groceries, no studio, no booking agent, no bucket list, no PR, no marketing, just fans. Man, we built this house where my days end and it's vacant, and they bury me with that only key my biggest fans gon' break in, with a Ouija board and a box of chalk, draw a pentagram, hail Satan, try to bring me back from that wooden box they'll try to fill my grave with. Then I'll sit on the roof with the rifles I hid in the fridge, and I'll shoot at the men on the ridge who are coming to undo the work that I did on the block off the highway.
Alright. Sorry about that. Recording at the same time. Multitasking. I love that part. Anyways, sorry, you had to go through that again. So anyways, where the fuck was I? Oh yeah, so all these different apps, you can look at them as their personalities you take on, because personalities you take on can also be very helpful, especially in hypnosis. You can put triggers in there to trigger certain personifications and more than personalities, but you know, taking on a personality is not much different than taking on a deity, especially if you really get into that. But you want to take on a deity, it's going to allow you to get stuff, receive stuff, whether that's information, whether it's to banish away stuff, whether it's to receive money, whether it's to banish away, or whatever the case is. So anyways, that's why I really wanted to emphasize on the whole thought form and or ancestors. It's not, performing magic to me is not completely different from, you know, making egregores, except when you're doing making a servitor egregore thought form, you're actually doing it on purpose. But it's not completely clear to me that whenever you make a sigil, well, you basically turn what you want into a picture, and you're putting that picture into your mind, so that picture is attached to a thought. So does it create a thought form? And that thought form goes out there and get it, and it just looks like your sigil. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck cares? It works. Point is, anytime you put enough emotion into thought, you create a thought form. The emotion gives it form. And once it has a form, well then now it's not just in your thought. See, right now, my grandmother who's passed on, if we have emotion, because when we think about her, we think about our memories, the joyous times or happy times, or maybe we think about sad because she's no longer with us. So she's still alive in thought form, in a form of thought. And these thought forms can help you, can give you information, or you can create them to do something for you. It doesn't matter whether you create it out of scratch, whether you just create it by thinking, fearing the same shit over and over and over and over again. Doesn't matter, but these things get created. So I'm just trying to offer another perspective on magic as in this whole thought form way of looking at things, whether it's your ancestors, whether it's deities, whether it's the planets. Planets are a little bit different because once again it's like energy centers within your body, energy centers above you and also below you, and they're deified, and there's they correspond to parts of your body, just like the zodiac, days of the week. So the planets and planetary magic is really, really, really profound. But like I said, I think it's built more for transformation. But nonetheless, you know, whenever you are using Venus, you're using everybody's mind and energy that's been put into there. And if you use it correctly, like you start using Venus to banish away stuff, well, unless she's retrograde or unless it's, you know, anyways, the point is that's something you use Saturn and possibly Mars for, maybe even the Sun, because Sun allows protection. But not something you would necessarily ask Venus for, unless it's something that you think your Venus is unbalanced in, so you want to regain the balance. You're going to ask her, you know. Anyways, but they work better for self-transformation. But any thought form you either created or already created. This is why I said before, any god that is worshipped, either old pagan gods or new gods or Jehovah or, you know, Yahweh or whoever, you're using the power that's behind it to fuel, you're using everybody's emotion and everybody's thought that's in those things, and then you're wielding it to and bending it to do your will. You become in control of that God. And, you know, with the God of the Bible, it's the opposite. That God is apparently in control of us. We've given that God our power and just said, yeah, do what you want with us. And it's like, well, what if someone's controlling that God and he has some generic shitty remedial fucking bullshit reality set for anybody who believes in that God? Well, then now you're fucked. So good luck with that shit. But anyways, so back to let's see here. Okay, so yeah, once and this the manifesting only in a specific spot. Now, if you're the type who doesn't want to do ritual magic, or doesn't like ritual magic, or doesn't like ceremonial magic period, or doesn't like the thought of it, or maybe you stopped programming so you don't want to do it until you know you got rid of that programming and all this blah 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 so on and so forth, because I think the programming and reprogramming your mind is pretty concrete knowledge out there. I think everybody gets into this, realizes we've been programmed, and you have to rewrite your own programming. I think everybody knows that. I don't think they necessarily know how to do it potentially always the right way. I think most people pay people to have this done when they can easily do it themselves. But I think generally, if you look far enough and you find the right people, you can figure it out yourself, because I figured out how to do it myself and it works. So, and I've given many hints and tips on here for that. So I don't think it's something I need to go over. Just like law of attraction, just writing shit down, focusing on stuff, being in the right vibrational state, all that shit's pretty solid across the board. It works in conjunction with other things, of course. Alone, they could still work, assuming you don't have much stress in your life, or triggers, or reasons to, continuously be out of that state, or always in your conscious mind, and you're not told to set it and forget it, or stack a bunch of different ways that work really good on top of each other. But all that, one I've already been through multiple times. Or if you're watching me, you're probably not a brand new person. Maybe you are, but you can go back and listen to all that stuff. But the things I'm re-emphasizing over and over and over again is because it's important. And a small little correction: I was saying 100 downloads a month, but 100 times 12 would be 1,200, and I've got, it wasn't 10,000, it was 9,500. 9,500, I think, was my number of downloads when I just looked at it maybe about an hour or so ago. So that means almost 1,000 a month. Well, probably like 800 a month downloads for my little fucking podcast. So that's awesome. And when I say I never visualized myself doing anything for my podcast, I visualize people listening to me. I visualize me having enough money to pay for the package, so to speak, but very weakly, not even in ritual setting. I've did, I think, a few sigils saying that my stuff, my content would find people that need to find it, basically, that will help them. And I've also made sigils and thought forms to protect my stuff from falling into people that may or may not abuse it, but that's a different story. So before I move on to something else, just to make it crystal clear about Satan and God in heaven, and because God in the attic or Satan in the basement, I think you said in this song or last song I played, but and I always say both. Anytime I hear my God or my devil, I always say both. To go to heaven, you got to raise a little hell, according to Kesha. Absolutely, you do. We have both those tendencies within us. You have one more than the other. I made this very crystal clear, and everybody needs to understand that too, because trying to stay in all love and light all the time is never gonna fucking work. It's a terrible long fucking term solution. It's never ever gonna work. And it's better to deal with your demons, your dark side, and get it over and done with. Face that fear, or try to realize that everybody around you isn't flawed, that it's probably you. Well, they're flawed too, but in a different way. But anyways, we have both those entities in us, if that's what you believe in. If you believe in God and the devil, then that's who's in you. If you believe in reptilians, Pleiadians, or reptilians and Source, well, that's your good and your bad polarities, okay? Understand that. Now, once you understand that, start becoming neutral. And then when you start becoming neutral, you will finally be able to see past that programming. The way to get out of programming, or the beginning step, and one of the best steps, period, to stop being programmed. Obviously, you can reprogram something and remove something, and that's easily enough done to remove something and put something back in its place. But shit can be pretty intense on you. But becoming neutral, doing middle pillar exercises and lesser banishings also help to a certain extent, and putting your feet on the ground every once in a while, and remaining objective and not just taking sides, realizing both sides of an opinion. And even if you're too mad at a certain point, you leave it, maybe express what you need to express, and if you can without being unhealthy, then you walk away from it and think back about it from a different perspective, because sometimes you're stuck in a certain thought, and that thought is determining what your perspective is, and then you're looking at something from that perspective. And then a different day, you get a whole new perspective. I'm sure you've probably written or read something before and took it one way, and then either this, like text message wise, you can get the same text message from two different people, and from one person you might think it's an insult, and from another person you might think it's a joke, and from another person it might be something weird. Point is, different perspectives. Whatever you're thinking of the person in the moment, you think they got that perspective. Maybe you think they're mad at you, and when they send you "what's up," you might think it's like, what the fuck does that mean? Why do they say "what's up" like that? And it could be, "Hey, what's up?" So perspective. Like, I've written stuff, and it was so late, and I'm starting to fall asleep. I went to bed, and I woke up, and I read it, and some of it made sense, some of it didn't make sense, and then I elaborated on it in a whole different fucking way that I'm pretty sure that I was going a whole different. Anyways, so perspective is very important, but when you're in the moment, it's very hard to just change your perspective. So, and it takes about 20 minutes to fucking really get out of that mindset, to be able to just remove yourself from whatever situation. If you're fighting with your wife and you prove her wrong, well, if you keep talking for the next 20 minutes, she's either going to bring up shit you did wrong in the past, or use what you're saying against you, or do something stupid because she's still mad at you. After the 20-minute mark, if you started talking again, you would get a different perspective, a different set of words that she would use. So that's important. But so if you depolarize, you start seeing where the line of God and devil are blurred, because it's so blurry. I don't even know where one starts and where one ends. Because like winter in French is l'hiver, okay, and in Latin for hell is envers, almost like l'hiver, except it's got an H. The winter in French has an H in front of it, which is kind of telling for hell. And enfer is what hell is in French. So all these words are connected, and cold. Whenever you're playing the hot and cold game, when you're getting close to something, you're getting hot. Oh, you're hot. You're trying to find what you're getting towards your goal. You're getting hot. Your heart's racing. When you find somebody you're attracted to, you're getting hot for them. Whenever you're cold, cold is pretty shitty. Cold is worse than hot in my book. A while ago when I was doing the neocortex information gathering, I was getting so hot that I almost felt like I was going to fucking puke. It was pretty strong. But generally, when I start talking about something that I think is really important, or need to, or I'm asking, whoever in my head, just what I should be doing for my next episode or whatever, that's the response I get is heat. So almost like Mars, because this is something I'm very passionate about. Mars rules passion, right? Mars is giving me his sign, because he's a fire element, right? Telling me, yes, you're onto something. You're passionate. This is what you should be doing for your passion. This is the right topic for the thing you're passionate about. That's how I take it. It works. I'm also wearing a red shirt today, so it is what it is. But that's just to show you how they fucking fuck things up for you, because space is where the heavenly bodies are, yet it's cold, you'd freeze instantly. And hell is within the earth, and that's where it's super hot. But in winter, hiver, enfer, invad, I think in Latin, or was the Spanish version of it, or yeah, I think it was Latin. All those words are either cold or hell, so hell is definitely a cold place. It's cold in hell. It's not hot. Hot and somewhere comfortable is where heaven would be. But both of them are just manufactured fake places that don't really exist. Once again, someone might like the cold, someone might like the hot, so their heaven's going to be the opposite from each other. So it is what it is. But both these polarities are within you. And once again, I think the initial intent of the devil and God is to personify these beings, these energies within our body, because it'd be very hard to just understand that these energies are within our body, especially if there's like 7 of them. How do you fucking do that? Well, you give the first closest 7 planets and satellites and gas giants the same names of 7 deities that are ruling you, which are the 7 energies in your body, which are the 7 days of the week, and the 7 notes, and this, all that shit over and over and over again. That's what you do. But then at some point in time, we just started worshiping and fearing these things, taking the 2 emotions that make things happening, and we kept putting it into the deity, but not in the right way. Not saying, hey, God of this Bible, I love you so much for giving me the 50 grand, and healing my cousin, you're fucking awesome. I would at least be harm fucking free, blah, blah, blah. You know, that would be the right way to maybe do it. Often, or in a meditative state, or trance-like state, sorry. But it's not what we do. We send that God, we either fear God and send him fear emotion so he doesn't give us a disease, which ends up saying, so give me a disease. Or we fear the devil, same thing, but blame all our bad shit on him. Like, can you stop making me fucking do this? I'm so mad at you, devil, right now. I fucking hate you. You know what I mean? We're backwards. We're not doing it right. And witchcraft has been demonized because we're doing the shit the right way and getting results. Whether it's bad or good, okay, you can keep getting no results and having a miserable life and calling me a bad person, yet I'm getting results. And I'm the bad guy because I'm trying to teach other people to get the results. You know, that's just fucked up. But anyways, these energies are within your body. You got to work on them. You can use them evenly. They both serve a purpose. Find out how you have to use them. Practice. Figure it out. Look at your astrology chart. All these things will help you out. But anyways, so let's get back to the neocortex, okay? I'll play some stuff for you guys on, this is the video right now, so I'll leave a link for you, but I'm also recording this for my podcast, so I'll have the links in the description as well. I'm going to play you something to explain to you, so you're on the same level as me. But the neocortex is the top, most outer layer of our brain, and funnily enough, you know, primates have this layer. The closer you get to humans, the more thick the out layer, like the bark of the tree, is basically what this is to our brain. You know, obviously this bone is skull is the outer limit, but the brain organ itself, the hypothalamus, is almost like the hypothalamus, the neocortex. I forget, but one of those words means like bark or something like that. So, but anyways, it's the outer layer, and then it controls specific points on the brain. And like I said, you're going to hear it. A lot of these have to do with your eyes, your taste, your touch, your scent, your hearing. So the 5 senses. So these things, it's like this is the part of the brain that interprets your 5 senses, I guess. So when you touch something, well, it's the signal from the brain telling you what that feels like. And it provides a feedback loop, basically. So the minute you touch that, signal sent to the brain is sent back to your finger, so you're continuously feeding it, and then in your head you know what that feels like, and you can describe it as, you know, obviously it's not completely smooth, it's leather, so this is a dead cow or horse, I'm guessing, and you know, it's a little not rough, it's like glossy, but anyways, that's how it looks. But this thing provides a feedback loop so that you can constantly know what something feels like, smells like, tastes like, and how fast it changes to provide your body information. Now that's important. Now the next one underneath that, now this is breaking up the brain into 3 major components, and there's all subcomponents that these things control within that, but it's way more complex than this, and this is just like a fast little version. But this is the limbic system, okay, and this is primarily an emotional system that affects a whole wide variety of things that you wouldn't expect your emotions to be in control of. But the mere fact that our brain has this emotional system built into it, and it's the middle part, you know, our emotions are tied to water, like everybody knows. The moon, the mother, that's emotions, right? It's a mirror, it's reflective, which is something that was pretty cool. I was talking to my wife about the other day. We were talking about the sky and the colors in the sky. I'm like, well, see how the sky changes colors every night? It's like, well, what making that happen? Because according to people, the sky is blue because it reflects off the water, or vice versa. The water's blue because it reflects the sky. Okay, so if the water's blue because it reflects the sky, then what's the sky reflecting off of? To turn that bitch fucking blue. And then at night, well, why come it goes black and we can see the stars through it? And how come it changes certain colors like this at certain points of the day? You know, the moon reflects the sunlight, right? That's what we're told anyways. It's a reflective surface. So it's something also like water, like a mirror, a reflective surface. So if water is a mirror reflective surface, if moon corresponds to that, and we know it reflects the sunlight off of it like a mirror, like water, and then if the sky is what makes the water blue, but then the sky is also blue, then wouldn't it make sense that that's also reflecting, because it turns black at night since there's no more blue there, right? So it's got to be a reflective surface too, because it could change multiple colors depending on what's being projected onto it. And I thought that, you know, as I was saying this to my wife, that was the first time I actually put this together, and I was thinking about this myself, so it was kind of cool. And I was just like, wow, you know, that's pretty telling yourself. And then, I did some little experiments in the house with water and mirrors and a flashlight to see, if I could mimic some stuff. And the experiment I did basically, confirmed that it's maybe not water like an ocean up there and like that, but there's definitely something to that. And air and water are opposite each other, and water evaporates, it goes back into the air, and then too much of it builds up, and then it rains down, and it goes back into the water. It's a cycle with each other, right? Air and water keep cycling out. Thought and emotion, thought and emotion, thought and emotion. Just like love and passion, love and passion, love and passion. So, but anyways, that's just some food for thought, I guess, there. But, when it comes to, I was doing the neocortex, but just to finish off the whole entity thing, the bad and good, and devils and reptilians versus Palladians and angels, and whatever else, your dark side is going to be found in your negative part of yourself, your negativity, whatever you're polarized against, however you want to conceptualize it. That's where you're going to find your dark side, and your dark side is more important than your light side, because enlightenment happens through the dark side. Okay, wake up. It's nighttime, you're asleep. No, it's morning time. Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. You got to be in the dark to wake up. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The devil, that's within your body, that's within you, the capability to do harmful things. Well, that's something you need to actively explore, because I've said this many times. If you don't express your emotions when you have them, or at least soon about, keep building up, well then you're not going to be able to control when you finally have had too much. When you have so much input in your body and you haven't been releasing it, because what goes in has to come out. Doesn't matter if it's something like thoughts that you can't necessarily see, or too much air, or whatever the case is, it has to come out. And if you just keep taking it in, building it up, well then one day it's just going to come out randomly whenever you didn't realize it was a problem. So, holy fuck, 21 minutes, or 23 minutes almost. I think it's 22. Anyways, I'll just edit it after, I guess. Yeah. If you keep building up like that, then what happens is you're going to be in Walmart one day, it's going to piss you off, you're going to, wherever, you're just going to have a meltdown, because all that's going to come out at once on somebody who wasn't even anybody who probably caused you those issues, and maybe it is, but, you might take it out on somebody innocent, and then, then you can't take back what you did. So you got to explore your dark side, and I've given hints and tips on that, and that's something that's pretty essential too, I would say. But back to the neocortex. The neocortex talks to the limbic system, and then the limbic system talks to the reptilian mind. So basically we had only reptilian mind back. This is kind of like a Darwinistic version, a history or whatever. And the first one was reptilian, and then that eventually evolved into emotions. So animals have mostly, like a dog for example, would have mostly your limbic and your reptilian mind. And then it's the neocortex. Hypothalamus is in the middle, it connects the two minds together. But the neocortex is the top layer, and you'll hear after some interesting things, and I'll play it first before I talk about it, so you don't think I'm smart and you see where I got the information from. But it's pretty interesting on some of the things that were said about, putting nanochips in people and being able to connect your thoughts right to the cloud. And, I thought that was pretty interesting with times like today. And it started making me think about, because like I said, the whole concept that the reptilian mind is that where the ego is, and it puts you in fight or flight and all that, those things happen when we trigger the reptilian mind. Because the reptilian mind is almost like the mind that accomplishes shit. If I didn't know any better, by the descriptions, the very simplified descriptions I received, if you were to have to pick a part of your brain where your subconscious and unconscious would be, which it doesn't work like that, by the way. It's elusive. It's around you. You can't really just pick certain parts of the brain and say, okay, this is part of the subconscious, this is part of the conscious. Although, that has been done, but not in the sense that we talk about too much on here. But, there is some things you can do, and that would almost prove that. But I'm starting to get too tired, so I'm going to probably have to shut this down and then finish them off tomorrow and do the podcast tomorrow. But, so they all talk to each other, but you can go right from the neocortex right to the reptilian. You can go right from the neo to the emotional. You can go from the emotional right to the reptilian as well, obviously, because that was the first progression. Now we have this extra layer in between that. So, you know, you can look at this from two different perspectives. Yeah, I'll probably get into that more the next time. But I guess before I wrap this up, one fast little thing about the whole David Icke situation, who's been banned from YouTube and all that fun stuff. I got nothing against David Icke, and I like that he was giving his perspective out there and, you know, said his piece. And once again, whether the reptilians or the deep state he's talking about is actually the name of this cabal that is controlling the world, if that's actually a thing or not, is irrelevant. But he's doing the same thing people do with Lucifer and do with God and demons and archons and reptilians, demonizing something that's within humanity already. We have this capability. Now, there's plenty of thought forms out there. If you want to picture it as a demon whispering bad things in your ear and then an angel whispering good things in your ear, like the whole little conscious thing there, you know, you have your conscious come out. I forget the name of it, but something to that effect. A devil and an angel on each shoulder is what I mean. You know, whether it's something like that or it's just these things are floating around. You know, what's the Latin, the word spiritus or spiritus, it was Latin word for breath. Breath is something we breathe in, but you can't really see what breath is. Pranayama, you know, the better you breathe in, the better you think, better your body works and all that. But spirit is that word, right? And alcohol is a water and it's spirits, but water is like air. But anyways, or a liquid. But I forgot what the fuck I was going with that. Oh yeah, so personifying these things, and it's giving you a representation on what's wrong with the world, but it's passing blame onto these things. Now, does government officials and deep state Illuminati types or whatever exist? Obviously, there's corruption everywhere, but you know, it's just, once again, I don't want to seem like I'm bashing him because I like what he's put out there. He's helped many people get awakened. He's helped, you know, so much. He's done a lot of good, and what I would defend his right is his right to speak his mind. If he wants to give his perspective on how things work, who the fuck is anybody else to stop him and say, no, that's wrong? And when someone gets banned like this, two things happen. And in my book, you've got to look deeper to see if maybe they're a fraud, or maybe he is telling some version of the truth, or maybe it's believable enough that whoever wants us in fear right now will use it. Because if everything he said, if you look at it like, holy fuck, they banned him, they removed his shit, can't go on YouTube anymore, obviously he was saying something true, you're going to be drawn to it right away. Moth to a flame, and they know this. I've said that before. So they normally try to hide stuff more than they just outright ban. But it's not like David, it's not like I saw him saying it, somebody else speaking for him, trying to promote their show through David Icke. London Real was telling you to share his show and put it on, and we gotta fight this fight, and using polarity right against you to get you to fucking watch his show. And, you know, truth be told, I probably will, but because I want to see what David Icke said. But point is, it could be just using his situation for a pawn, just to make us more fearful. So we think everything he said, from reptilians to coronavirus to this transgender issue to big pharma to all this shit, so we think it's all true. And none of it could be true. So just something to think about. But like I said, I don't think he's doing that. I think he honestly thinks what he thinks is real. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying you might not want to keep calling your reptilian mind and making fun of it, thinking it's bad and all that, because, you know, it does a lot for you. And, you know, if you keep calling it names and insulting it, well, then maybe it'll get sick. Maybe it won't let you heal. Maybe it'll say, fuck you, you don't like us. Well, you don't like you. And, you know, just kind of like I said with the Matrix. The Matrix has been turned into a bad word, but it's just some Latin derivative or something to that effect, a different language and a different way of probably saying mother, matriarchy, maternal, Mary, you know, all these things start with M-A. But anyways, so I think that's enough because my eyes are closing, so I think that's going to be enough for today. But yeah, so just keep that in mind when you're looking at the David Icke stuff and reptilians and all that. This is polarity within our body. We got to stop putting excuses on other beings, even if there are beings whispering shit in your ear right now. Now you have no excuses. I told you, treat those thoughts as offers. You can either accept them or you can deny them. You can reject them. And if it's something you've accepted before and you want to remove it, well, now you banish it. And then you accept the one you do want instead. So now it's your fault if you don't start doing that practice, because you've been warned. So anyways, so that's why it makes that irrelevant if there is reptilians doing this to us, or archons, or thought forms, or whatever the case is. You have the power to turn that shit off and not accept anything from any other source. Get on board with the whole thoughts don't come from your brain, they come from somewhere else thing. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
We will connect wirelessly our neocortex of the cloud.
This is with nanobots that enter your neocortex.
Right.
This is your prediction. For when? When is that?
Well, June 2033.
Yeah. June 12th, 8:35 in the morning.
So we have 300 million modules
That's it.
without limit. And we'll be sexier, and it'll be harder for you to win this.
What's the best way to think about the brain? It's insanely complicated. Everything connects to everything. Gazillion little subregions. Amid all that complexity, there's a broadly sort of simplifying way to sort of think about aspects of brain function when it comes to behavior. And this was an idea put forth by this guy, Paul MacLean, a grand poobah on the field, conceptually of thinking of the brain as coming in three functional layers: the triune brain, and again, this is highly schematic. The brain really doesn't come in three layers, but one can think of the firstmost, the bottommost, the most ancient as being what's often termed the reptilian brain, where basically the parts in there, we've got the same wiring as in a lizard, as in any ancient creature. It's been there forever, ancient wiring at the base of the brain, most inside. And what does that region do? All the regulatory stuff. Your body temperature changes, it senses it and causes you to sweat or shiver. It's monitoring your blood glucose levels. It's like releasing hormones that are essential to sort of everyday shopkeeping. It's just, keeping regulatory stuff in balance. Sitting on top of that is conceptually what could be termed the limbic system, the emotional part of the brain. And this is very much a mammalian specialty. Lizards are not well known for their emotional lives. Part of the brain having to do with fear, arousal, anxiety, sexual longings, all those sorts of things. Very mammalian. You're off there in the grasslands, butting heads with somebody else with antlers, and it's your limbic system that's heavily involved in that. Then sitting on the top is the layer 3, the cortex. The cortex, spanking new, most recently evolved part of the brain. Everybody's got a little bit of cortex, but it's not till you get to primates that you got tons, and then apes, and then us. So functionally, it's very easy to think of this simplistic flow of commands. Layer 2, the limbic system, can make layer 1, the reptilian brain, activate. When is that? Your heart speeds faster, not because of a regulatory reptilian thing, ooh, you've been cut, something painful, but an emotional state. You're a wildebeest, and there's some scary, menacing wildebeest threatening you in your and that emotional state causes your limbic system to activate the reptilian brain, and your heart beats faster. You have a stress response, not because a regulatory change happened in your body, but for an emotional reason. Then it's very easy to think of layered on top this cortical area commanding your second layer, your limbic system, to have an emotional response. Rather than something emotional, here's a threatening beast right in front of you, something emotional, you see a movie that's emotionally upsetting. See a movie. These are not real characters, they're pixels, and it's your cortex that's turning that abstract cognitive state into an emotional response. Likewise, your cortex, layer 3, could influence events down in layer 1. You see something upsetting, you think about something, you think about mortality. one of these days my heart is going to stop beating and your heart's going to beat faster. You're not bleeding and hypotensive. You're not in some nothing in the reptilian brain can make sense of this. A purely cognitive state. Ooh, on the other side of the planet, there are people undergoing some traumatic event and I feel upset about it, and your reptilian brain responds. So it's very easy, given that, to think of a 3 talks to 2 talks to 1 sort of scenario. Just as readily, though, 1 talks to 2 talks to 3. What would be a case of that? What's your reptilian brain talking to your cortex? Remarkable finding. When we're hungry, we make harsher moral judgments about people's transgressions. We're less charitable. We cheat more in economic games. Our cortex assessing the effects of pro-sociality, anti-sociality, and altruism and its evolution, and part of what it's doing in deciding how it feels about somebody else's plight is if your stomach's gurgling, if you're hungry, if you're in pain, that affects very cortical judgment type areas. Layer 1, this ancient reptilian brain that should have nothing to do with how your cortex works, having tons to do with it. Or layer 2, influencing layer 3, your limbic system, your emotional state, influence your abstract cognitive processes. What's the most obvious example of it? When we're under stress, when we're in an emotionally aroused state, we make stupid, impulsive decisions that seem brilliant at the time. Affective, emotional, limbic layer 2, influencing how your cortical cortex goes about its abstractions. It's not that abstract. It's embedded in the biology of all these layers. This interaction between these layers, seems this very mechanical process, potentially even an unconscious one. How do we consciously have, say, our cortex regulate an emotion, a limbic 2 layer? Simple. Think about the most arousing, wonderful thing that ever happened to you umpteen decades ago, and your cortex is evoking a memory that's got your limbic system humming along in some excited state. Or think cortically, or pull out the memories of some traumatic event, and your limbic system is responding. How about reptilian level? Easy to make it get into an agitated state. Sit there and think about something incredibly upsetting. Think about some memory that was truly disturbing. Think about mortality. Think about global warming. And your heart speeds up. Layer 3, in a very conscious way, has mobilized layer 1. A lot harder is the inverse. You're sitting there and you suffer from high blood pressure, and either they can marinate you in antihypertensive drugs for the rest of your life, or an alternative approach, biofeedback approaches. Sit there and think about the happiest day of your life. Think about being in an open field that's beautiful. Think about your favorite vacation. Think about, and if it's the right thinking about, suddenly your heart slows down. Suddenly your blood pressure goes down. The core of biofeedback is figuring out what sort of conscious states you can evoke that will affect your reptilian brain in a direction that's good for your health. And all you do then is learn how to get better and better in some stressed, hypertensive circumstance. What conscious, active thinking can I mobilize here at this point that will cause changes in how my big toes blood flow is working? In a case like that, that is very conscious regulation of more autonomic, more ancient parts of your brain.
Primary visual cortex, layers 2 and 3. Comes from the Latin for bark, as the cortex. The neocortex is the wrinkled outer layer of the brain. The word cortex comes from the Latin for bark, as the cortex wraps around the brain, like bark wraps around the trunk of a tree. And neo means new, as the neocortex is the part of the brain to grow and develop most recently in evolution. The cortex is generally divided into 4 main lobes in each hemisphere: the frontal lobe at the front, the occipital lobe at the back, the temporal lobe on the side, and the parietal lobe on the top. Different areas of the neocortex perform different functions. A few of the main areas are the visual cortex at the base of the occipital lobe, which processes visual information, the auditory cortex at the top of the temporal lobe, which processes sound, the somatosensory cortex at the front of the parietal lobe, which processes information about touch, the motor cortex at the back of the frontal lobe, responsible for organizing and performing movements, and the prefrontal cortex at the front of the frontal lobe, which is responsible for planning and decision-making. However, the function of a given area of cortex is not fixed. If one area of the cortex becomes damaged, other areas can take over its function to some extent. And if we perform a task repeatedly, for example practicing a musical instrument, this can cause the areas of cortex allocated to that task to grow. And if we artificially divert visual fibers from the visual cortex to the auditory cortex during development, the auditory cortex will then respond to visual information. The ability of the neocortex to adapt to a new function and its rapid growth and evolution has led to the theory that there is a common general cortical circuit. This would allow one cortical area to easily take on the functions of another, and would allow the neocortex to evolve quickly. As you don't have to evolve a whole new wiring structure, you can just keep on expanding the same circuit. The neocortex is composed of 6 different layers. However, layer 1 consists primarily of the dendrites of neurons in lower layers, and contains few actual neurons. And layers 2 and 3 are often considered together, partly because of the difficulty in distinguishing them experimentally, but also because they have similar patterns of connectivity. This results in 4 functional layers of neurons. Input from the thalamus arrives primarily into layer 4, and to a lesser extent into layer 6. Neurons from layer 4 then project primarily into layers 2 and 3. Layers 2 and 3 then project down into layer 5, as well as projecting horizontally to other areas of the cortex. Layer 5 then projects to layer 6, as well as projecting to the basal ganglia and other cortical areas. Finally, layer 6 projects back to the same area of the thalamus, creating a feedback loop. Within each layer, the neurons also make contact with each other and with inhibitory interneurons. We can now look in detail at how each layer of the cortex processes information. To help illustrate this, we will use the primary visual cortex as an example. The primary visual cortex is a region of the occipital lobe. It is the first part of the cortex to process visual information. It receives input from the lateral geniculate nucleus of the thalamus. Neurons in the lateral geniculate nucleus receive input from the retina. They respond to points of light in a circular area of the visual field, known as their receptive field. The receptive fields of many lateral geniculate neurons cover the whole visual field with a high degree of overlap. The receptive fields have a center-surround structure. There is a smaller circle in the center, which, if stimulated, will cause the neuron to increase its firing rate. However, if an area in the surrounding circle is stimulated, the cell will be inhibited. If a bar of light stimulates the whole center and only part of the surround, the result is a net increase in firing rate. This makes lateral geniculate neurons very good at detecting edges. In the case of the primary visual cortex, neurons in layer 4 are known as simple cells. They receive input from a number of lateral geniculate neurons whose receptive fields are arranged in a line. This means they will respond to a line of a particular orientation in a particular region of space. Layer 4 excitatory neurons preferentially connect to other neurons which respond to lines orientated at the same angle. However, neurons responding to all orientations connect to inhibitory neurons, which in turn inhibit nearby neurons regardless of orientation preference. This means that when a line is presented, it will excite simple cells responding to that orientation in that region of the visual field. These will excite inhibitory interneurons, which will inhibit neurons responding to lines of different orientations, as well as the original simple cell. However, they will also excite other simple cells with the same orientation preference, who will in turn provide recurrent excitation back to the original cell. This excitation allows them to overcome the general inhibition and means a subnetwork of simple cells responding to that orientation is active, whilst the others are inhibited. Neurons in layer 4 then project to layers 2 and 3. Neurons in layers 2 and 3 wire in a similar way to layer 4 neurons. In the primary visual cortex, layers 2 and 3 contain neurons known as complex cells. These receive input from multiple simple cells responding to lines with the same orientation but from different regions of space. This means complex cells respond to a line of a certain orientation anywhere in a much larger region of space. Again, in layers 2 and 3, neurons preferentially connect to and form strong synapses with other neurons responding to lines with the same orientation, whereas inhibitory interneurons innervate surrounding neurons regardless of orientation tuning and receive input regardless of orientation tuning. This results in a dense blanket of inhibition and means when a line is presented, a sparse subnetwork of complex cells tuned to that orientation will recurrently excite each other, whilst neurons tuned to different orientations will not be able to overcome this inhibition. Neurons in layer 5 receive input from different subnetworks in layers 2 and 3, and they also form subnetworks, connecting preferentially to other layer 5 neurons with the same inputs. Layer 5 neurons also form subnetworks based on their long-range connections, with neurons that project to the same part of the brain preferentially connecting to each other. Layer 5 contains two main types of excitatory neurons: cortico-cortical neurons, which project to other areas within the cortex, and cortico-subcortical neurons, which project to other subcortical structures, including the thalamus. Both types of layer 5 neurons project to the basal ganglia. Inhibitory interneurons in layer 5 connect in a similar manner to the previous layers, and inhibit the surrounding layer 5 neurons non-specifically, providing a blanket of inhibition. Layer 5 neurons also have tall, tufted apical dendrites, which form synapses with the axons in layer 1. These axons in layer 1 originate from other cortical areas. This allows layer 5 to integrate feedback from other cortical areas with incoming signals from the thalamus, flowing through layers 4, 2, and 3. Layer 6 also contains two main types of excitatory neurons. Cortico-cortical cells receive input from layer 5 and form connections only in layer 6, both between themselves and with the other type of layer 6 excitatory neuron, corticothalamic neurons. Corticothalamic neurons, as their name suggests, project to the thalamus. They also receive input directly from the thalamus and from layer 4. Corticothalamic neurons rarely connect to other excitatory neurons within layer 6, but frequently connect to inhibitory interneurons. And inhibitory interneurons inhibit both types of excitatory neuron. Layer 6 corticothalamic cells are able to provide feedback to the thalamus, which has a number of complicated effects, including controlling the gain of thalamic neurons, making them respond more or less to incoming stimuli, switching thalamic neuron firing mode between bursting and tonic, and synchronizing the firing of thalamic neurons. So to sum up, layer 4 neurons receive input from the thalamus in a specific pattern, and by connecting to neurons which respond to similar stimuli, they are able to amplify these patterns. Neurons in layers 2 and 3 combine inputs from layer 4 and form subnetworks, where neurons with similar properties recurrently excite each other against a background of general inhibition. Layer 5 neurons integrate this information and form subnetworks based upon what they encode and where they send this information to. Layer 6 can use this information to provide feedback to the thalamus, forming a loop whereby an area of cortex is able to modulate its own input. We can see that in almost all layers, cortical neurons connect to each other following some general rules. Neurons combine inputs in a specific pattern to allow them to extract information, such as the orientation of a line. Neurons connect preferentially to other neurons with similar responses. Neurons which project to other brain areas also connect preferentially to cortical neurons which project to the same area. Inhibitory interneurons connect generally to excitatory neurons.
Like you're 17, working late at 9 to 5s, jealous I just rap and sleep. You're angry at your life, got a job, forgot to leave. Now you're growing older in the only town you'll ever see. They been hating, I think it's stupid funny. Haters, fake friends, making me stupid money. They been hating, making me famous. Keep hating, you're wasting all of your energy on me. They been hating, I think it's stupid funny.
I don't monetize my channel anyway, so it don't fucking matter, yo. To Tom McDonald, I mean no disrespect, I just love your music, man. Even my 8-year-old daughter loves your music. So when you hear me playing songs like this, it's no disrespect. It's not trying to get hits off your music. It's just to show people a true artist and poet. Whether you like whether people like what you're talking about or not. As far as I can tell, you do piano as well from some of your videos. I don't know for sure, but you got talent, man. So I want people to know that. That's all I do by doing this. And, you know, I get copyright claims because I played your song on my last 2 videos, just a brief clip of it. So it is what it is. I don't try to monetize my channel. I'm just trying to get information out there. What's going on, everybody? Just a little disclaimer for Tom if he does see my shit, that I'm not trying to get hits off his music. I just want people to hear that he's got talent. You know, you may not, people may not resonate with what he raps about, and you know, not every song. Alright, sorry about that. Running out of memory or some shit. This fucking thing. So, anyways, yeah, whether you resonate or not with his music, and this is what I mean when I said back in the day that I can listen sometimes to Taylor Swift or Katy Perry and have an emotional response, just like Avenged Sevenfold, just like Tom McDonald, even fucking like a mainstream fucking rapper that, you know, overall his music might suck. Once in a while they actually write something with their heart, and if that one makes it to the radio or I hear it, I can resonate with it. And it's not even sometimes about resonating in the sense of, well, maybe it's just not resonating, period, but maybe it's just about the fact that they put emotion into it, and it's actually about their real struggle, and it's not some fake shit about, you know, bitches, hoes, fucking drugs, and, you know, the game, whether that's the trap game or the fucking rap game. Trap and rap, different, one letter different, and then rapture, so think about that. But anyways, so yeah, 2 copyright claims on those little clips for those 2 videos. Like I said, I don't monetize my YouTube or try to, and I mean, I couldn't if I wanted to. I think it's like 100,000 views or 10,000 subscribers. Like, it's not worth it. There is easier ways to make money online. And like I said yesterday with that whole 25% of real information and then 15% of the actual people, or sorry, 10% of that 25 real information, well, 10% of those will be legit, but you can go out there and just write how to make money online, and they'll give you Instagram ways, YouTube ways, and you'll have to probably spend a couple hours searching to get the real ones and try a couple ways, but you can find it, because I have. This is I have multiple revenue streams of money coming in through via internet. None of them are huge, but they all make a little bit of money, and they will all slowly grow as I want them to, as I become better at what I do, and as I put more time and effort into it. If I don't put time into something, and it's still making like 20 bucks a day, to me that's like a win-win. I mean, it's only $20 a day, but still, you know, after 5 days, it's $100. Who gives a fuck? It's $100 I didn't have before. To me, that's pretty damn good. And if I decide to put time into it, and then, you know, that triples to $60 a day, and then that doubles to $120 a day, well, that's like a real job. So, no worries, you know. You just gotta start. You just gotta start. Most people just need that starting point. Most people are addicted to information, and information searching, and trying to find, they won't admit it to themselves, but they're trying to find this quick enlightenment secret out there, because their mind knows there is a way to do this. The mind resonates and knows that enlightenment is real, the awakening is real, and some of these things are actually real, but a lot of it does come down to programming, and maybe that's what they're trying to do. Maybe it's their mind saying, don't bother trying this shit, just keep watching. Eventually you'll program yourself. There are faster ways to do that as well, which is why I promote ritual magic and witchcraft, because that is the fastest way to get shit into you and get yourself programmed and unprogrammed and reprogrammed, and remove fucking stupid belief systems. But nonetheless, point is, people are addicted to information searching. Most people know that, and that's why people make money on YouTube, because people are addicted to information. Kids like watching people playing video games with either hacks, with either tricks and tips on how to do things, or just funny content. They get a double dose. They get humor, which they love, plus they get to watch someone playing a video game, and, you know, maybe they can learn how to play that video game better, and, you know, whatever the case is. Or maybe they just like the fact that someone is making money on YouTube playing a video game, and that's a reality that they want real in their life, because my kids watch this shit all the time. People on Minecraft and whatever else playing video games and making them laugh, and I kept saying, like, why don't you fucking do that instead of watching somebody do that? Like, you're promoting this guy, and, you know, the ad revenue he gets from every time an ad comes on, even if you skip the bitch, he still gets a hit for that, because that gets in your head, and eventually one of these days you're going to buy one of those products and not even realize that you watched something on here, and that's what made you want to go buy that product. But and the more I thought about it, it's like, well, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to let it be, because if they want a reality where they can play video games and get paid for it, well, then I want my kids to have the reality they want. And a reality where people make money by sitting down and playing video games probably isn't the most productive society, but I still want it in their head that they can be on YouTube making money instead of having to work a 9 to 5. And it's not that that doesn't have relevance, but my 14-year-old is willing and able to get a summer job. He has been for the last 2 years and been putting out resumes, and the way things are going, he's not going to be able to do that anyways right now if he wanted to. So people can say, well, Court, you're not really promoting something good. You don't want your kid to work. It's like, no, my kid already wants to work. My oldest already wants to fucking work. But society is not allowing him to work because of this shutdown. Society has stopped people from working. Well, not everybody, but the majority. So, yeah, let your kids have that programming put in their head. It's probably better than watching fucking movies and sex and gore. You know, the fact that they're watching somebody play a fucking video game and person is being funny with their version of funny, whatever that may be. You may not understand it, but it's better than them watching something about drugs, better than someone watching about sex if they're, you know, too young, and, you know, with swearing and killing and vulgar and bullshit like that. You know, we expect them to want to watch stuff like that because we wanted to watch stuff like that, like our parents when we were kids. So we assume that to be normal, but it's not fucking normal. Children shouldn't be watching shit like that, not at any age. But anyways, so there's my paper. I gotta keep going from when I went off yesterday. It was talking about the neocortex, and the neocortex is the outer layer of your brain. I said the hypothalamus, but the hippocampus is what connects both sides of the brains. That too is a part that wasn't developed until a lot later, and I've already had episodes about that, about when people heard the voice of God. It was really just their subconscious mind connecting via the hippocampus through evolution, starting to connect. So not everybody would hear it. So that's why the few that would hear the voice of God have been marked down, written down, whatever, whether you think that's a fucking true story or not. If it's just a writer who had his hippocampus connected and he was writing the Bible and any of these other spiritual books, it's irrelevant. The truth of the fact is, on the history of the brain, that was developed later, just like the neocortex was developed later. And because that was developed later, well, now we have some of the benefits and some of the shitty situational events, whatever things that are happening right now today. And the ability to control one's neocortex might be very, and I'm not trying to promote fear here or anything like that. I don't know if there's nano chips and fucking vaccines or anything like that. But I know there's a lot of people saying shit like that. So regardless if they're actually doing it or not, if enough people believe it, then they'll believe it. And maybe that's all they need. But, and I say they, and don't get it twisted, I don't think there's some group out there controlling humanity. I think we create that ourselves. I think we personify evil beings, evil men, Illuminati, elite, reptilian types to make sense of why our life went wrong. When the simple truth is we could just start doing magic and witchcraft or fucking whatever you want to call it, law of attraction, New Age, Wicca, and you could start changing your life around, and you'll see that there is forces out there that rule people, but you can become above them and, you know, simply just ask them to cut that shit off and it'll be so. But anyways, discovering about the neocortex and seeing what they write about that, and, you know, with conspiracy theorists, and that's quotations because they can say They start the conspiracies. Neil deGrasse and fucking giving an interview to some brain guy saying that in 20 years, this is like 4 years ago, but in 20 years, we'll be able to upload to the cloud right from our mind with the newest technology. And then when someone comes out and says, hey, they're trying to put nanochips into a vaccine, and this is all started because of that, so that they control our minds, because if you put those nanochips in there so you can upload to the cloud without using a computer, well, then anybody that has your IP address or whatever can literally take over your mind and your thoughts. And that's all your conspiracy theorists. It's like, well, you started the fucking conspiracy by releasing that shit. It's like, this is why I say, they want you to do that. That's how they control what you're going to say. They already know what conspiracy you're going to come up with, because they'll have a group of 20 or more people say, hey, this is the info. What conspiracies could be derived from this? And these people will come up with 5 each. So that's fucking 20 people times fucking 5. That's 100 theories. And if you look online, you're going to probably have like 50 that vary but have similar things. So we haven't even hit all the same conspiracy theories that they've already thought of. You're just playing into their hand. And that's what they want. Because then, okay, and then this is the real conspiracy. But what do you think they're going to think about this if we drop this? You know? So in this way, they can monitor it. So we're at 50 of the fucking conspiracies right now. We still have 50 away until we get onto the new conspiracy. So we got lots of time, guys. You know, it's something to that effect on how they control the information and the conspiracies and, you know, the truth movements and all this shit. They only release what they want you to know. Understand that, because when something is released online, you can't get it back. Someone out there has recorded it and is ready to start spreading it around. So they have to stop and they have to control what is released, and that's why you start seeing things happening like right now, like, you know, Twitter saying you can't talk about the meat shortages anymore, you know, and the whole 5G and coronavirus you can't say in the same video on multiple platforms. You know, they're trying to scare people out of their you monetize your videos, that means people watch you. That means if you talk about this, you're not going to have monetization, and worse, you might even get kicked off YouTube. So they're threatening you by taking away your money, your you know, I don't know if it's your livelihood or not, but one of your sources of incomes, and by by stopping your source of income. So either you're gonna have a channel that you can't monetize, or you know, you're gonna get kicked off directly. And then just to make sure they're serious, they say, hey, David Icke's been banned. Gandhi, bud. Done. He's not around anymore. You can't see his stuff, which, you know, you're not really hearing from David, so it might be legit. But also, they could just choose David Icke. I'm not saying he's somebody who's in their little game, because it sure doesn't seem like that he's part of the elite just trying to cause fear. But I think you can still be saying truth and cause fear and be playing into their hand. And this is kind of what I mean by that. I think I put the wrong title in the wrong video, because that was my last title. Now I'm talking about it. But point is, I think that happens a lot. I think they use people that speak truth to help spread fear. And just watch out. If you're going to do that, maybe try to give an alternate way to not be fearful. But I mean, we still need truthers out there creating this fear so people become in the truth movement, because I'm telling you, to get into spirituality, you first have to get in the truth. You have to break down your old programming to realize that you need new programming. You can only put new programming in via repetition, but if you don't have a spiritual background, if you don't do spiritual things, then the repetition you're going to use is probably not going to be that beneficial to you. But nonetheless, I still believe that's the way into the enlightenment, is through truth, is through finding out that everything you've been taught is bullshit, and realizing you need to hypnotize, fucking self-hypnosis, fucking do magic to put in new belief systems that match what you believe in. But anyways, that's it for now.
Alright, what's going on? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this Year and a Day episode. As I said, I started this thing. Now, I'm unclear if the May 3rd date is the day I started the podcast or the day I started monetization, but I can't go past that date. So, to me, that tells me that I don't have any recordings past that date, and therefore that is the beginning date. So, although I'm not necessarily going to be exploring anything, well, I'm exploring something new, but yeah. So anyways, this introduction is just to say that. So if you have been somebody who's been tuning into me since, the beginning, since you found my channel early last year, either in May or June or July, or even if it was just a month ago you started listening to the podcast and or my YouTube channel, I appreciate you. I appreciate all 5 followers I have on here, which, it was 3 not that long ago, and then 4 not that long ago, and now it's 5 here on Spreaker, so that's awesome. My Tumblr, which I upload all my videos and podcasts to, has been growing. I have something like 8 or 9 subscribers to me that I subscribe also back to, which is something I said before. If you subscribe to me, I will return the favor. So, feel free to reach out, subscribe if you want to, but you don't have to. And, I'm fine either way. And YouTube, I think today I saw it was at 23. So it was at 22. Now it's at 23. So I'm very humbled and blessed and thankful that I'm able to put out this stuff, and people seem to enjoy it. As you can tell by the picture of the podcast, I put on some statistics from my, in my Spreaker account. Some of it's just the basic information. Shows the 3 podcasts and the number of downloads, which adds up to the 9,600 and some, which went up significantly because it was at 9,500 yesterday when I checked. And then I showed, I think it was April 6th where I had 200 and some downloads. And I think that's the week of April 6th, not just the date. And then there's another one on there as well with total downloads and in the top, then 2 other numbers, and then followers at the bottom. So just to, just so people don't think I'm lying, and I'm not bragging about this because this is not huge numbers. There's some people out there that would just, their numbers in one day would destroy what I did in a year. But nonetheless, I'm still thankful for that. And like I said in a podcast, I don't know how long ago, if I was doing this to become popular and try to make money, then I wouldn't be doing it on this subject matter. I'd have a better chance with just truth or conspiracy stuff, and or just trying to record myself doing some skateboarding tricks and shit like that, and or any DIY shit around the house, creating something. So this is not why I'm doing it, because this stuff, and I truly believe that you do not throw pearls before swine, 100%, and that's why, like I said, I've created my own servitor to protect from those who would be considered swine, also known as pigs, also known as ignorant, uninformed, and unwilling, know-it-all humans. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that some of the characteristics, not all, of what I refer to when I say swine. And it's not their fault. I was a pig, swine, uninformed, arrogant, ignorant, know-it-all at one point as well, and probably a really bad one. So that's not out of disrespect or me judging. It just is what it is. People can't get past their belief systems, their bullshit. So that's what ends up happening. But anyways, so today what I want to speak of, what I'm going to be speaking of, what you're going to hear, is a wide variety of things. And it's going to be the introduction to me exploring about the brain. Now I'm going to take occult and change it into occult sciences and connect magic and witchcraft and the using of the subconscious mind to the actual parts of the brain. Now today is a simplistic version, breaking down the brain into 3 layers, being the brainstem, the limbic, and then the neocortex, and maybe explaining what they do and playing some quote-unquote experts explaining exactly where some of the information I got, their version of it, and what these things do. The brainstem being the oldest and the first part of the human and all animal brains, anything that has a brain basically. So obviously maybe trees and insects don't have a brain like we have. Maybe they have it somewhere else. Maybe it's a consciousness that is floating somewhere around them that they tap into. Who knows? But and the neocortex being the newest part of the brain, and still in evolvement. Now, there's some fascinating things about that, meaning if someone's neocortex is bigger or smaller, it tells you specific information about the person. And the neocortex talks to the limbic and then talks to the the reptilian, or no, the brainstem. Well, reptilian mind. That is the reptilian mind, by the way, is their brainstem. The oldest one we have is the reptilian mind, and the next one would be the emotional, would be the limbic, and then the upper would be your cortex, which is, you know, Neo. Wake up, Neo. Neo, wake up from the fucking Matrix. And that's actually what started all this. When I was watching Infinite Waters, he was saying, Neo, wake up. Red pill, blue pill stuff, talking about that. And then I was like, neocortex. Wonder if there's something there. Wonder if and then I started looking into it, and my body started getting really hot, which is always a sign of what? There you go. Now you got an extra thing, baby. Oh, I don't know. You don't want that there? All right. Sorry about that. Help my daughter with her game. But anyways, so that's what I think at the very end I start diving into is the brain and the functions and what's what. Now, like I said, and you'll hear me say it later on, the subconscious mind is and isn't both a part of this. There's things in your mind that are attached, obviously, that would be considered subconscious mind, but it's also not even within the brain. That's very hard to explain, but that's what I'll be making a case for probably in my next episodes on YouTube and the next podcast that I put out on here. But yeah, I also wanted to mention something about Beltane, because Beltane just happened, and I hope everybody enjoyed their time and danced around the maypole. And wait a minute, we're all stuck inside, we can't do that. That's fucking bullshit. But anyways, kind of a shitty time of year considering Beltane, you know, where there's still some, you know, maybe Irish, Scottish, maybe places overseas, not so much where I am in Canada, but there are still people that have religions that are more like what we would call witchcraft, that celebrate these things and take them very seriously. Beltane being a time of year where, you know, you would have a fire and give offerings to different nature spirits and earth spirits, water spirits, whatever. So, fire spirits, and, you know, to try to make sure that you don't, you know, keep disease away, keep, you know, make your crops grow, protect your animals, your family, you know what I mean? It's the beginning of spring. The maypole is probably, most certainly, is a phallic, you know, a springtime phallic that we dance around. I think Bircha has a video about how we're basically dancing around the penis of God. But, you know, nonetheless, we're thankful for God's penis and Mother Nature's vagina for creating us. Therefore, you know, let's celebrate it. And, you know, this year everybody was inside, so, and not being able to do the things they did. Now, I did a symbolic representation on my altar and visualized myself doing something outside, so me and my family will be protected. And if you haven't done such, and you're supposed to, just like on Halloween, maybe you're supposed to put out the dumb supper, you're supposed to put out a plate of food for your ancestors, otherwise your ancestors can come back and fuck with you. Well, if you haven't done so, you know, maybe you should do the same thing for Beltane. This is why on full moons and solstices and equinoxes and the Beltanes and Samhains, this is why we do things. It's 8 times a year that we, you know, say thanks, and, you know, Thanksgiving comes. Anyways, it's important to do these symbolic rituals to sync up with nature. It's not nature. It's not necessary, but it's definitely very, very helpful. And, you know, if it's your first time, then don't sweat it. You know, maybe do some research, figure out when all the 8 special days of the year are for witches, and should be for everybody. And, you know, give back. Thanks, gratitude. It'll do a world of good for you and everybody around you. But anyways, so the reason I'm getting into the neocortex is because I want to teach more in-depthly, because it's one thing to just say, you know, we can heal our own bodies by visualizing what we want, adding emotion, and it'll be so. But how does this actually work within your brain? And it can be explained in a medium to easy way of understanding it, even if you don't study, you know, any kind of anatomy, biology, science of the body, brain, you know, neurology, plasticity, what the fuck's that word? Anyways, the neurons in your brain and all these things, it can be made very complicated, and that's definitely true. And if you have a hard time wrapping your mind around some of these concepts, these big long words, these things within your brain, then it might be a little hard to understand this. But I'm going to do my best to give correspondences to relate this to something else, because one thing I do know is as above, so below. As below, so above. So even though your brain is a complex organ in your body, there's something else that's just as complex that we don't perceive as complex, and then thus I can call on that to describe the brain and accurately give you an accurate representation of how this works. So yeah, stay tuned. This episode touches on it a bit, but my next few episodes are going to be way more in depth and very helpful, from everything from healing to why the coronavirus is this mass thought form trying to infect our brains, or a test to see how we could be affected. And yeah, so that's the intro, and now back to the regular scheduled program. Ceremonial Witchcraft, a whole year and a day initiation has been done, and now my channel is ready to take off and get to the next level. So thank you to all who's always tuned in and downloaded and commented and all that stuff, and to the few that have left donations a while ago, thank you very much. I really appreciated it, even though one of them I did turn down from a child, but I appreciated the sentiment. And yeah, thank you to all who listen, and have yourselves a great fucking day and enjoy the fucking show.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? You know what it is. Put on my episodes yesterday. I think 2, or one the day before, one the next. No, both yesterday, one. Anyways, so just so everybody knows, first day back at work was on Monday. Today will be my 3rd day. Holy fuck. Today will be my 3rd day working. So, if you're wondering why things are slowing up, this is why things are slowing up. Preparing to go back to work, and now I'm back working. We're essential, and like I said before, my essential service is now back up and running. Our furnace is now fixed, so the frequency of which these videos are happening may slow down, it may not, who knows. That's sorry, fucking thing was bugging me. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not slowing up just because I'm being a procrastinator and shit like that. But that's always part of it. But anyway, so I put out some information. The newest information I put out was about Watchers. And Watchers is something that's always fascinated me, and something I always like talking about. The Grigori, egregores, all that. In the second episode I put out on my podcast yesterday, I played a lot of people's different information about whether it was calling the Watchers, whether it's about archons and Watchers in the Bible, whether it's comparing them to the deities and the egregores, the Grigori, whatever the case is. I put a bunch of different opinions about the subject, and one being one of these girls, I can't remember her name, how she calls the Watchers to it, and then Uncle Birch's version of calling it to it, and then I had what it said in the Book of Enoch, then I have what it said in the Bible, then David Icke's view, and Epiphany Lecture's view of Everyone's Watchers, what he said at Super Bowl, and what he says when he's talking about Beyonce self-deification. Self-deification is whenever you pick a deity to be like us. In the beginning of my podcast, I said, and even on the videos I have on Instagram, I say, I don't worship shit. I respect, I honor these beings, these deities, these gods. I use them all, I honor them, but I don't worship anything. This is not a religion of worshiping anything. Well, it's not religion, really. But the point of this is the difference that separates us from organized religion and spirituality. And this is the main reason I'm trying to get awareness into magic and witchcraft into the it's not like my main focus, but one of the things I want to do is get this kind of awareness about the magics and the witchcrafts into the New Age and the law of attraction communities, because they're dealing with the same stuff. Okay, they're doing the same things, trying to use your mind to bring stuff to you. Okay, you're trying to attract things using your mind. We're using psychology, and all this is embedded within the magical witchcraft. These communities, these things that we, these are spiritual guidelines, let's just say, and then we have a specific kind of structure. And I'm not telling anybody to adopt this kind of structure by any means, but I do want people to adopt the way of thinking, being that I thought Christianity. okay? Whether I'm right or wrong about this is irrelevant, okay? But these, at one point in time, and this is something I've come to and a lot of people have come to, all of these gods and deities, Mars and Venus, to Jesus Christ and God of the Bible, to Allah, to Moses, and all these different figures, okay, across time, were thought forms that were created by human beings. Now, you can take on the Jesus Christ thought form just like you can take on the Mercury Venus thought form. You can take on Hecate, or even Satan or Lucifer if you'd like, which might be the same as Venus, but you can take those thought forms on, and it will teach you something. You'll gather the information that was attached to that, and it'll help expand your mind. And now you've taken on that deity. This is self-deification. This is one of those things that you do when you start witchcraft. You pick a deity, but you don't really know what you're doing it for. But when you do this process, it helps. You gotta think of it as like you have your MacBook or your laptop, and all it has on there is your operating system, which is either Mac. It's either the iOS, or it's the newest version of Windows, or whatever you're running. But now you want to add all these different applications, all these different softwares, all these different things to run it. You want all your apps on there, right? Well, you are the laptop, the computer, and then your Corey LeBlanc, your name, whatever it is your operating system. Well, I guess it'd be more like your subconscious is your operating system. And Corey LeBlanc is the only app you have on there, or I have on here. And then when I start doing magic and witchcraft, every deity I've ever called upon, every deity I've ever used is a new app that I downloaded, and I can do stuff through that app. So I downloaded Venus, okay? And Venus is one of the first ones I've used because of the whole Taurus, and the moon would be another version of that, and these are energies within your body as well, so that plays on it. So it's like these are apps that are compatible with your software already, so it makes using them very easy. Plus the days of the week, everything is here to show us that this is what you should be doing. It's that they can't just tell you that, because if they told you that, you'd be like, well, fuck you, I'm not going to do it. Kind of like the way when they push Christianity on everybody, and now everybody's saying, fuck you, we're not going to believe in that shit. But that's another story. Point of this is the things we worship as gods were things that were created to help us learn and evolve. There is a collective consciousness, there's a collective unconscious. When you create a thought form, it goes into the collective unconscious, okay? Now, if you want to believe this, that's your choice, but there's a lot of smarter people that have written many books about this, from psychologists to theologians to historians to scientists to anybody doing neuroplasticity or neuroscience, science of the brain. They've written books about this collective unconscious, and it's a phenomenon that you can't necessarily put it in a microscope and look at it, but with all the data collected, you can basically over time realize that this is true. And this is the reason all our movies end up being the same theme over and over and over again, because the stories we know, the stories that are deep within us, that the 7 chakras, they all have a story. These deities, these gods, they all have a story, an origin story, whatever attached to them. Well, these are the stories we play out depending on what mood we're in, what vibration we're in, however you want to say it. Your lower chakras and your higher chakras are using all fucking 7. Well, then you might have, when the Avengers all get together. But at first you're doing one Avenger at a time, right? You're doing the root, and then you're doing the fucking sacral, and then you're doing the solar, and then you're doing the fucking heart, and then you're doing the throat, and then you're doing the fucking third eye, and then you're doing the crown, and then you're doing all the Avengers together, going after one fucking bad guy. Then it's the 7 against the Zodiac. Those are all your enemies. The 12 against the 7. And some of those 7 get sacrificed and killed and shot the fuck out and whatever. But anyways, point is, these things, this is what you do. We don't believe in one God. We believe in many gods. And a lot of people misconstrue that to say, well, it's because you believe the days of the week as gods, and you believe in all these gods. And let them think that. But that's horse shit. That's not what we do. We don't just believe in a bunch of random gods. It's not. Our religion isn't as simple as here's the Bible, this is what I believe in. This fucking God, all these guys did stuff, this is history, this is fact, and this is what we believe in. It's not that fucking simple. It's not even like that whatsoever. Not for me anyways. The gods we believe in are the things that can help us evolve. And it's not necessarily just the 7 days of the week of those 7 planets in our body. That's not necessarily the gods we believe in. We believe in us as a piece of the whole, the all, the one. We are a piece of that, okay? Because that has consciousness in everybody, then you can use everybody to evolve your consciousness, past, present, future. What I mean by that is, and I played it, Epiphany Lecture says it looks great, but this is in many books. If you're doing mundane stuff, if you're trying to manifest money and stuff like that, well, you can call on an ancestor rather than calling on Jupiter. Now, I've used Jupiter, I've used Venus, and that's what I showed in that video. And I think for beginners, that's the best way to go, because they may not necessarily feel comfortable using their ancestors. Plus, that's a different type of way to have that I practice. But I'm not just going to come out here and say, hey, do this, because it's part of a tradition, and that tradition is that tradition. But generally speaking, when I first started and I was just doing my own thing, I used Venus and I used Jupiter, I used these sigils because I saw them in the books and they worked. But you can use your ancestors to bring on money, to help you with finance, to bring on love, to pay your bills. But then when you use the planets, you're using it for within your body, for self-love, to evolve yourself, to love yourself. People say you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself. That's horseshit. Because people can love somebody else more than themselves and sacrifice everything they do for that other person. You know what I mean? And that is a type of self-love, but you're projecting on somebody else. But that's another video for another time. But I guess the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is thought forms, egregores. We can create them just the same way that they've been used. Now, creating a thought form, if you're the type of person that says, I can't create a thought form, I don't really know, I hate when he talks about that because I don't really know what he's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Well, anytime you use another god or goddess, anytime you use another deity, you are using a thought form that someone created. And that has evolved. Now, did the Venus, or maybe Aphrodite, or Diana, Lucifer, whatever, did that thing, was that around before and then evolved into a planet and now it's deified? Probably not, but who knows? Or was the planet always there and they say, yeah, that's Venus? Well, not Venus, whatever the oldest name is for Venus, and it would be in a whole different language that I can't even pronounce, but yeah, that's Venus. And she's been there forever, and she's the goddess of this. Who knows and who cares? The point is there's power in this because we give it power. Whoever gives it power. If there's enough people that give it power, then there's tremendous power in it. But there doesn't even have to be a lot. You can create your own thought form with only your own unconsciousness, unconscious, collective, whatever you want to call it, your own energy into this thought form that no one else knows the name of this thought form. You can create it and it'll go accomplish something for you and come back. Now, if you don't treat it right, if you just let it roam freely or whatever, it can evolve and start doing shit or whatever, and that's where the whole Book of Enoch shit with the 5th level of heaven, with all these giant, enormous beings that look like people without any faces. That's what I was trying to get at when I was talking about the whole, that's what this reminds me of. And God's about to get rid of all those guys because they should have went down to earth and helped the humans. Well, the humans created it. And maybe that means we're not supposed to do this, not supposed to create thought forms. Maybe over time that script, that story got changed and changed and changed to the point where it didn't even make sense to the person reading it, so they just made it make as most sense, most relevant to today as it possibly could. Who knows? But to me, that's what I get out of it. And that's how this stuff works. The unconscious collective, just like the conscious, the collective consciousness and the unconscious. So there's, we have conscious and unconscious, so we're going to have both collective versions of that as well, okay? And people say they're one and the same, and yeah, everything is the same. There is no opposites, okay? Everything that seems like it's an opposite is really just different degrees. So read the Kabbalion. But anyways, that's what I was trying to get at, was that simple fact right there. That the Bible, the Book of Enoch, all these things, it's a different way of teaching magic. Even if it's telling you not to do it, it's telling you what not to do and how not to do the bad things, and not necessarily not to do it. Not the uninitiated and the people who can't get past their own belief systems and programming and are too scared, because I think if they pass that line, they're going to get struck down by God. even though people are doing it every day and they're not getting struck down by God. That's there for them, and it serves a purpose. And who are we to make fun of that and say, they're ignorant, this and that? It's not their fault. They were programmed, and now they're playing out their programming. We're the lucky ones that were able to get past our own programming and break our programming. We're like those thought forms, those egregores that were able to break their programming and evolve. Because maybe we're just someone's thought form created, and the ones playing out the programming are the thought forms that still have a hold. The person still has a hold on them, and we're the ones that broke free. So no, you're not controlling my strings anymore, and maybe that's the point.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You know who this is? Oh, shit. I forgot this isn't from my phone. The music doesn't just cut off. Oh, well. It's a good track. So I get out of the fucking driveway there. I'll mute it down, maybe. Oh, this does sound like a nice little intro. Bunch of drums. Wait for it. Smoke there, and then I'll stop. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry of that. I had to repeat some of the songs. I was just out with the kids and the wife doing things. And I didn't want to have a bunch of dead air, but I hope you enjoyed. And like I said, the next one, it's going to be Neocortex Delve Deep, and how it refers to magic and how to use it. And why the elites might want to nano chip it and shit like that. Alright, have a great fucking day.